Good morning, Rise in Freedom. A little bit later, rising and freedoming today. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. It's Friday. Hope everybody's feeling good, in a good mood. Well, you ought to be. We'll get to sleep in a little bit today, which is kind of nice. Why did we do this, Austin? Why is the show going a little bit later? If you're just tuning in, you didn't hear the news yesterday. Well, it's because we get to have somebody live and in the flesh. His beautiful, beautiful flesh. John Burk joining us in studio right now. Good morning. Good morning, John. How you doing, man? John is here. We've got everybody. And the lovely Stephanie Peterson, who's here with us as well. Give her a round of applause. We do have a camera shot of all of us there. There we go. Right. It's that one over there, the far, far right one. So we can all wave up there so you can see all of us. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. We've got a lot of fun stuff to get through today. We're going to start off the top of the show. Cocaine. She don't mind. She don't mind. She don't mind. Cocaine. That's right. Cocaine found in the White House. Now, Austin, you've already talked about this. Yesterday, we heard the news. They found cocaine, and it was in the library, right? It was in the library. It was Colonel Mustard with a candelabra.
And the crack pipe.
And the crack pipe. But the news was that it was found in the library, and the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, I don't know, whatever her lesbian ass's name is. she said it was in the library, which is in the public area that tourists can go through. Right
through there, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have you ever done a White House tour, Steffi? No. Okay, next time we're going to you have to like plan it months in advance nowadays.
I'm sure they'll ever let us in.
I'm not sure. I'm on the list for sure, especially after that comment. But the news is, the latest is, because everybody was like, oh, it must be Hunter Biden's. He was, reading a book and doing some blow. But
he was tearing pages out of the book to roll up.
Right. But they made it very clear that he had an alibi, that he was in Camp David for the weekend before the 4th of July. So it couldn't have been his, right? Even though everybody knows that Hunter does blow. But
can't drive very fast. So
175 miles an hour to Las Vegas. You saw that one?
No.
Dude, so he drove his Porsche and took pictures of himself. I don't know if there's video. There might be a picture of himself driving his Porsche.
So fast.
Driving his Porsche 175 miles an hour while smoking crack.
Oh yeah. I did hear about
To
what's going to happen to him as a result of that? Oh, that's right. Nothing.
No, absolutely.
Tax evasion, gun charges, drugs, and what? Just a tiny little.
Yeah.
I just wonder how the Secret Service keeps up with him when he's driving 175 miles an hour. Like, do they get a helicopter out to like follow him?
No idea. I mean, there's got to be, because the Secret Service, they have the power of arrest. So
they do?
the Secret Service could arrest him if they see someone who is committing crimes, which cocaine's a federal crime. So obviously they could arrest him if they saw him with it. But here's the thing. The latest news is this. The latest news is that they didn't actually find the cocaine in the White House. They found the cocaine in a secure area where the vice president parks her car. Therefore, one is to assume if one is
by my power of deduction and reasoning, I would assume it's the crackhead Kamala.
If one is to assume, one might assume that you would be in Kamala Harris's position at that point.
I'll have a julep.
Julep.
She uses this area, nobody else.
No. Well, everything's a common area in the White House.
It explains the cackling.
It's essentially
explains the cackling. We get it.
Oh,
she probably is a crack lady.
Well, Austin, don't say that. That's racist. That's racist, Austin. Don't say it. I haven't gotten banned yet, like John has from every single platform. We'll talk a little bit more about crack in the White House in a few minutes. But next, after that, all these freaks on a plane, airplane freakouts. It was something that would occur every once in a while before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, all of a sudden, everybody is having these freakouts on a plane. And now we can't go a week without 2 or 3 people, taking their lives in their own hands to a certain extent, right? Air marshals. We saw what happened to that Jordan Neely guy. Exactly. Somebody chokes you out. You could die, right? And we saw
I've watched that whole thing. Not to get focused on that.
No, it's okay.
Not the boxer, but
Daniel Penny. No, so I was
Jordan Neely and Daniel Penny.
Yeah, so this was the story of the guy, Steffi, who he was like autistic or he had some kind of mental health problems, and he would like scream at people. He's just a crazy homeless kid. Yeah, on the subway.
No.
Yeah,
Well, no, he had over like something like 40 prior arrests, and he was wanted for, or basically it was just kind of, the city just tolerated him. You know, once more reports started coming out. And then, you know, it's interesting how social media has allowed people to kind of weigh in on stuff. So there was a lot of eyewitness reports that talk about this dude had also broken some 67 or 65-year-old woman's nose, literally punched her in the face. And he was arrested multiple times, released multiple times. He had a track record of this. So this Marine steps up and he sees, like, you know, this guy is like threatening people. Like, people, bystanders on the whole subway incident were saying this guy was literally threatening people. And what I find very interesting is that they're going after the white Marine, but there was a black dude there wearing an American hat that actually helped restrain this guy. Nothing for any, you know, and I'm not knocking either of them. They did the right thing. They subdued this piece of crap.
Right.
But the white dude's in trouble, black dude's being left alone. So when you see stuff like this, now white people are like, yeah, I'm not getting involved. Nope. Not getting involved.
I mean, it's a constant struggle. When I lived in New York City for about 5 years, and I remember seeing things like this happen, and you don't want to step in because, one, you don't want to get stabbed typically, right? And it has nothing to do with you. And I saw people who would step in, and then the person who they were stepping in on behalf of would get mad at them and be like, nothing to do with you and all that kind of stuff. It's like, you know, if you see a woman being ostensibly abused by her boyfriend, she doesn't want you to get involved. And it's like, and then you get involved. Like, New York doesn't protect you.
No.
They don't care.
They will protect yourself.
No, they don't. Exactly. They don't. Yeah.
You can't have a gun. Right?
You can't. Well, you can't have a gun.
To get a gun is very difficult. You know, there's a process you go through to get licensed, and it basically. I even had a friend that she lives up there. It's like, I was a rape victim. I had to go, and they still wouldn't let me have one. Still wouldn't let me have one to defend myself on the subway, no less.
Now, Donald Trump, I think, is one of the very few people who has a license to carry in New York City. But John Stossel did a whole episode one day of his show where he went and tried to get a carry permit. Famous John Stossel. Literally everybody knows who John Stossel is or did at the time. And he could not get a carry permit in New York City. Now, mind you, this is before the Supreme Court decision, Heller versus DC, where they said, you know, that you have to change your laws. But all New York does is every time the Supreme Court knocks down their laws, they just go and they pass a whole bunch of new laws. So, you know, if you want to defend yourself, you can't do it.
The system,
Don't live in New York City, right?
You just so like it puts the average subway user in a very weird position now, to where it's like, okay, like you just said, it was very common to see people do that. People drugged out of their minds, acting just very sporadic. So if I'm a father and I have my family there, how am I supposed to protect them if this dude potentially has a shank on him? You know, so it puts you in this position where you see the Jordan Neely situations occurring and groups of people start subduing these people. Well, if the person's black and you're white, good luck. Now you're going to be viewed as like, even the rear, like I watched that video because it initially came down, he had him in the chokehold for 15 minutes and that was a lie. The actual release said, no, he was in chokehold for like 5 minutes. And I actually pulled the video and I watched it. And I've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been trained in this. And he had him in a rear naked. And even in the rear naked, when you put somebody under, you're going to see the body just kind of go limp. You're out. That dude's legs, it's a blood choke. So essentially, it doesn't kill them. Now, if you keep it locked in and you hold it, yeah, you will kill them from lack of oxygen and blood. But essentially, you know, you saw this guy's, his legs kept going. They kept moving. He basically had him in a restraining hold. And actually, if you watch where he had his hands, he didn't even have that choke sunk in yet. You know, you do karate and stuff like that. So when you actually break down that video, it's like he wasn't struggling to the point where he couldn't breathe. If he couldn't breathe, he would stop moving. He would be like you'd see him kind of do the kick and chicken and then just kind of go limp.
Typically, people will they'll pass out, right? So they'll go limp, and then that's when you stop, right? You know, because it's
you're gonna choked out,
right?
We're not choked out, so it's kind of like I know that. So you're watching it, it's like all the MSM's taking this, and it's like, well, it was a black man being choked. He was murdered. It's like, no, he wasn't. It's like that was.
No, I mean, here's the thing. It's because racial grifting is lucrative, man. It's extremely lucrative. Yeah, it's Al Sharpton.
Yeah.
And then who's that senator lady, the former senator lady on Twitter that we see all the time, who's always constantly grifting on everything, like all day long on the 4th of July, like her. All she talked about was that the founders had slaves.
Oh, did you see? I follow her on Twitter when I'm not getting banned. Redheaded libertarian.
Oh, TRHL.
Oh, dude, I love her.
She's friends.
There's like slaves that have better, or like what they say. She retweeted her, or she commented and got ratio, but she talked about like like slaves have a better education than you. And like I was like, she nailed her. I was like, paraphrasing, but she talked about because she was talking about like there's nothing to be proud of on the 4th of July. America's blah, blah, blah. It's like slaves have a better education than you do.
Yeah, dude.
And she got ratio so hard. It's great.
One thing that I really love too is to remind them that even despite their slaveholding legacy, their legacy in total will still be greater than theirs, right? So we call this the moral time machine. This is this idea that they can go back to some point in history and pretend as if they were there, they would have done something better, or they would have been something better. But it's bullshit. There's, everybody is, we're all in the time right now. We don't know what we're doing right now that we'll look, future generations will look forward into and be like, haha, they wore clothes. Oh my God.
Remember Sinbad?
Yeah.
I grew up on Sinbad. I love Sinbad, but he did this one thing. And he's like, man, you young brothers. He's like, I'll tell you this right now. You get all feisty. He's like, and I like it. He's like, but this young one brother, he was kind of like, he's like, man, if I was a slave, I wouldn't do nothing. He's like, oh, really? Nailed it. And to think, like, if you live back in that day, and white people do it too. It's like, I would have stood up. No, it was the cultural norm back then. It doesn't justify it by today's standards. But that's what I feel like liberals do by and large, is to sit there and virtue signals like, well, if I'd have lived back then, you probably still wouldn't have owned slaves because it was the wealthiest class of whites in the South that actually owned them, which is, I think, comprised of like less than 4%.
Fun.
Oh, absolutely. They had them working freaking in sweatshops to make their bullshit leggings back in the day or whatever. I don't know. Ye old leggings shop. It's in Paris Hilton. That's so yeehaw.
Good morning. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. We're glad to have you here. If this is your first time here, subscribe to the channel. We do a show typically every Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. We're doing a little bit later because we got our buddy John Burk in the studio with us today, and we wanted to make sure that we got an opportunity to have him on the show. And he's not a morning person, so we're glad he's out this morning for us.
No. Let's put this in proper context. In the morning.
All right, on the floor. All right. Well,
wow. Throw me in the butt like
30 people here in the morning.
Wow.
All right.
Did you marry this?
If you're enjoying the content, shut up. Give me. If you're just tuning in, make sure you click that like button as well to help us spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty, which is what we're all about here on this show. We're glad to have you here. Tolly Owens over on the live stream says, I think we need to take a moment and acknowledge the greatness that is Daniel Penny's hair. Yes, he did. I saw a lot of people comparing him to like.
Oh, he's got the curly with the like the okay. What kind of cut is that?
Like Julius Caesar? I don't know. It was like
like the comb forward. That's like a 1980s porn, dude.
No, I've seen people who were comparing him to like the ancient Caesars and things like that, and saying that he looked like like a god. But yes, you're right, Tully. He did have good hair. Cheeky Mayor Libby, our moderator, thank you, Libby, says I will be on a plane on Monday. Fingers crossed, nothing happens. We will.
I know. I'm taking a plane home back to Dallas tonight. It's like, oh god, here we go.
Freak out. Well, here's the thing, and we're gonna get into this a little bit later when we talk about these clips. Is the question: would you step in and do something on the plane?
Absolutely,
right? Yes, absolutely.
I asked you that question recently. I said, would you really step in?
But was it on the plane for the plane thing?
Yeah.
Oh, for a plane, you would. Yeah, well, but we were talking about it in the context of terrorism, right? Which you kind of have to.
Yeah, well, you're gonna die either way.
So open the plane door and throw the person out if they have a bomb.
Yeah, you can't really do that, right? Depressurization. If they have a bomb, I mean, you're kind of effed. You might want to try and throw it outside the plane.
Really take on a bad guy myself. I mean, I'd probably help, but I don't think I'd be the first person like running after them.
All right, we're doing a really extra hard karate class tonight now because you said that. You got to learn how to defend yourself. We're going to teach Stephanie how to fight.
I do have quite a responsibility.
Stephanie would panic for sure. She'd be screaming and running for the exits for sure.
Open the door and throw people out.
I send the extra row because it's much more comfy. We're glad to have you here today. What else did we have in the kitty for us to discuss? Let's take a look. Trump v. DeSantis.
Anymore. So the biggest thing is like you have to be generic on Instagram and Facebook. And then really go hard on the podcast because they can't touch you there. But
we got to talk about Trump v. DeSantis at some point.
Sure.
And there's a lot of times that when I think about the conversations that we're having about it, it's all very online. So like yesterday, I talked to Camellia about should women be allowed to vote? Right, which is a very online conversation.
Man, you're really opening up a can of worms on this, and we're going heavy right away.
Views, guys. Yeah. Stephanie, should you be allowed to vote?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I vote libertarian.
But don't
My
women?
vote matters.
But don't women vote with their vaginas?
I did for you, but you know.
How exactly do you do that? With their vagina? We're just kidding. Obviously, the Wake Up America show is a comedy podcast as much as it is a news podcast. Don't look to us for what you might get on MSNBC, CNN, Fox News. We're actual real news here with comedies. We will talk about Trump v. DeSantis. When I say it's a very online conversation, what I'm talking about is that like the battle between these two candidates is the bloodiest Republican v. Republican battle that I've seen in terms of their how vicious their supporters are of one another.
Yeah.
And it's because they're so similar that they hate each other the most. It reminds me a lot of like libertarians and how libertarians fight. Stephanie, you know this pretty well, right? Like we just
It's very annoying.
you're not a real libertarian, right?
No.
And it's or you're and the Republican like version of that is you're a rhino.
You're a rhino, yeah.
Right, you're a rhino. It's like, oh, it's so terrible to be called a rhino.
Everything these days has just been
You're rhino,
the lines have been
rhino.
blurred. Like if you don't agree with Trump or the cult of personality, now you're a rhino, you're a plant. You know, it was very interesting to see that. You know, I didn't have. Trump did good as a president. I mean, I will concede that. It's like, absolutely. But he lost me when he started going after DeSantis. DeSantis is definitely posed as a big figure in fighting the culture war in Florida. Regardless if you agree with the extent of what he's done, he has been making a definite impact. And all the influencers that are Team Trump, no more than like 6-7 months ago, were Team DeSantis. Like, oh, he's the greatest governor everywhere. You saw things like Cat Turd, Alex Brucewitz, these paid shills. They were all up on DeSantis's nuts. And then DeSantis contemplates a run. Trump starts attacking, and suddenly these people are like, oh, Florida's the worst state. No, oh my God, blah, blah. And they start going back and deleting all the pro DeSantis. Like, so you guys are paid shills. Like, just be honest, you're paid shills.
And that's the thing is that you got to watch out for it because you don't always know who is working for which campaign. You can get
when Alex Brucewitz received $35,000 from the Trump PAC.
Alex,
it's shown.
That makes sense. But some people were accusing Tim Pool of being on the Trump campaign.
Bad. I'm sorry. I don't see the fascination with him. I just don't. But you see Tim Pool sit there and start crying about, you know, the team DeSantis putting some AI photos of Trump hugging Fauci, and you clearly know it's fake. And Tim Pool's up there,
Right.
He's sitting there crying, and yet no more than a year ago he said DeSantis should run. But then these people start doing these AI images, and Don Jr. posted a lot of stuff of DeSantis that was AI manipulated. Not a peep, not a word.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't agree with AI usage. I think it's deceptive. But if you're going to call out one side, you better call out the other. And Tim Pool didn't do that. And people go to him for like intellectual honesty. No, that dude is playing a side. And I lost all respect for him. It's like, dude, the fact that you're doing that, no. Absolutely not.
Stephanie, what do you think about people using AI images like fake, like deep fakes and things like that in campaigns?
I mean, that would be really scary. I just imagine if you ran for office and then somebody did a deep fake of me, you know, doing who knows what.
Right.
I mean, that would be mortifying.
It would. It would be. Yeah. I obviously it would be deeply disturbing and something that I would be really upset about.
And to try to prove that it's not real would be very hard.
Yeah. I think I disagree with you, John, in that I do think that you should do absolutely anything, you know, legal in that sense to win. Like deepfakes like that probably will be good for parodies and things like that because, you know, you can make somebody say something that they actually did say, but maybe they said it on paper and it wasn't on video, right?
I have to disagree on that one because if you look at what Trump did to DeSantis in the early stages of this, he basically accused him of being a pedophile. And there are lines you just don't cross. You know, and I've said this. I was on Andy Priscilla's show prior to this, and I told him the same thing. I was like, Trump's team, he keeps surrounding himself with these yes men that are giving him the wrong guidance, the wrong direction. DeSantis would not have near the popularity, however you think it is, whether it be big or small. He would not have the popularity he has now if Trump had not attacked him. He would not be picking up steam. He would just be DeSantis. Trump would still be the biggest name out there. But the fact that Trump continues to go after DeSantis and not really after anybody else, that shows you that Trump views him as the biggest threat. He doesn't attack Nikki. He doesn't go after Vivek. They kiss his ass because, I mean, let's just be honest. They know they don't have a chance. They're going for that VP slot. But DeSantis is the one, and I'm not even a big DeSantis guy. I'm just kind of like, I look at it from both sides of it.
Are you getting paid by DeSantis?
Yeah, now I'm paid like 300 followers, my Twitter followers. Like, I'm getting paid. Yeah, absolutely. But if you disagree with them, it's like, oh, you sound like a rhino. It's like, and you know, I love this. The hypocrisy of this is just so beautiful. The talking points went out. The MAGA Inc. influencers have adopted leftist tactics in the MSM. And what I mean by that is their talking point goes out and then they all start repeating it. The biggest one is, DeSantis is a rhino. He's backed by the likes of Paul Ryan, whom Donald Trump, on dozens of occasions, personally said is such a good guy, such a good guy.
Yeah.
And then you talk about Jeb Bush, who then Trump then hires Jeb Bush's campaign guy for what is it, Rhode Island or something like that. And then they talk about like, oh my God, he's such a rhino. And then you have Trump wheeling out the Johnson and Johnson CEO at one of his rallies. This guy gets so much money, you didn't do this. I was like, he surrounds himself with the swamp.
Well, it's funny too because he'll attack DeSantis for being like tied to the bushes,
Oh, gee,
but then he's got Lindsey Graham speaking at his rally.
2.0 Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
Guys, let's be a good guy. Such a joke. Who keeps electing the Romneys and these morons? Trump wheels them out there, and everybody's got like, oh. And you see these nerds like DC Drano defending. Was like, well, you got to keep your enemies close. Trust the plan. Trust the plan.
Are you on that Threads
Yeah.
social platform? What do you guys think about Threads, Steffi? I'll let you start. What do you think of Threads?
For it.
Why not?
Confusing.
Why not?
It's just like Twitter. What's the difference?
Twitter's actually better.
Yeah, exactly. I think Zuckerberg is going to kick all of you off at some point.
Yeah,
probably true. Yeah,
I think the liberals are going to hang out on Threads, and the Republicans and libertarians are going to hang out on Twitter.
I saw Ben Garrettson cartoon the other day that did it really well, where it showed Elon Musk on the left, where he's looking at Twitter and he's saying, "What if it had less censorship?" And then it showed Zuckerberg in the right panel, and he's looking at Twitter and he goes, "What if it had more censorship?" Right? Because Zuck has always been the absolute worst when it comes to censorship.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't mind that you don't have porn on your platform and stuff like that. To be honest, like I don't enjoy sometimes scrolling through Twitter and seeing like two guys going at it, right? Like
what the hell are you following?
Well,
I've never seen that.
Dude,
You might want to try that.
Yeah.
Content.
No, I do, because sometimes somebody follows me and I
just outed himself.
Shut up. How dare you?
How dare you?
FBI. FBI, open up! All right, so the problem is that when it comes to Facebook, they quite clearly censor you based on your political views,
yes.
right? And the clearest example of that I can give, the most glaring example of hypocrisy, if I could ask Mark Zuckerberg one question about censorship, it would be specifically about a meme surrounding Jeffrey Dahmer. You probably saw this one. It came out during COVID, and I got like a 90-day ban for it. So lots of people got banned. Some people got permanent bans for it. And all it was a joke, a very obvious joke, right? He's a cannibal, where it was Thanksgiving was coming up, and the big story was, were people going to go home for Thanksgiving to spend time with family during the pandemic, right? You kind of got to put yourself back in that mindset because people were afraid, right? That was the first year we didn't know anything about it. So I posted a meme of Jeffrey Dahmer and he said, "No one can tell me how many people I can have for Thanksgiving dinner," which is it. That's it.
You got 90 days for that?
I had 90 days for that, okay? And lots of other people got banned for that too. Now here's the thing. They did say exactly
about this.
They did say exactly why you got banned. It said supporting dangerous persons or organizations, right? So it was saying you are supporting cannibalism with this,
Right.
which is pretty fucking dumb.
Yeah.
They don't know what humor is.
No.
Well, no.
You've seen Zuck? The guy looks
even
humorless.
even like the most like robotic of NPCs would look at that and go, "Well, this is a cannibal joke," right? Not Austin Peterson is advocating that you chop up little boys and eat them, right? Quite clearly, no.
But if you go for the genitals and chop those off, it's A-okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But isn't a good point? Thank you. Give John a round of applause there. You and I know very well that the reality is that the censorship was not because I was supporting cannibalism.
No.
It was because I was pushing back against people who were telling you not to go home and spend time with your families on Thanksgiving. That's what it was.
We saw when the Twitter files dropped, after Elon purchased it, we finally got the closure that we all knew as far as government interference in these private companies, if you will. And it's like, you saw the government actually paying Twitter, paying Facebook. They didn't say Facebook, but for a fact, if they're doing it for Twitter, they're doing it for Facebook. And it's like you saw the government meddling and what was actually being pushed out there. It's very Orwellian-like. And it's like the propaganda was just nonstop. And if you tried to because I lost my YouTube. I had like 350,000 followers over there.
Damn.
And I was doing the podcast live on there, which I should not have done. They got me from medical misinformation. And I didn't come out there like a lot of people say, like, look, the vaccine doesn't work. My thing was just kind of like, look, I like the Milton Friedman idea of it. It's kind of like there's always going to be guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Let the guinea pigs voluntarily go, and then you can make your decision based upon what happens to them. So it's
Right.
ultimately at the root of it, it's freedom to choose. But making that assessment, apparently, they say qualifies as medical misinformation. And so they took my YouTube channel, they took my Facebook. I had like almost 700 something thousand on Facebook. They do. They deplatform me off of everything. But it's all because, I understand. I wasn't like Alex Jones, like they're turning the vaccines gay. It's like it's not what I was saying. But they got me so hard for something so simple. It's like if you're making an enemy out of me, you're making an enemy out of anybody that questions the whole narrative.
Well, what I think is hilarious is that anybody who was anti-mandatory vaccine, even if you're pro-vaccine,
Mm.
is considered to be anti-vax.
Isn't it interesting how they do that? Yeah.
That's still the Merriam-Webster definition. And if you go to the dictionary and you look up anti-vaxxer, it says people who are against mandatory vaccinations,
Yeah.
which means that I'm technically an anti-vaxxer,
I
even
love
though
how they
Yeah, me
phrase that. Though. They do
Yeah.
that intentionally to force you into a certain camp
Mhm.
that makes it easier to hate you, although it's intellectually dishonest, and we know
Right.
that. But that's what they do.
Yeah, but I mean, as bad as social media can be, thank God that it exists to an extent, right? Because and there are like more competitive platforms that are springing up. Like Threads is probably not going to be the free speech platform that we
Oh
need,
God, no,
obviously,
no.
right? We know
Well,
that.
it's the same terms of services as Meta. So when
Yeah,
people talk about
yeah.
that, the thing is you can link your account, and you can't change your name, you can't do any of that stuff. Which now they apparently did an update to where you can delete Threads, and it won't delete your Instagram account, thankfully.
Mhm.
But the same terms of service are going to be existent over there. And it's like, again, man, I'm not sitting there saying that I deserve a lot of these bans.
Mhm.
I know when I push the line. I know when I'm posting something that in reality, in the real world, it's not a big deal. Like you can have these discussions on race, transgenderism, genital mutilation, the drag queen crap, but when you go to places like Threads, don't expect it to be any different.
Mm-hmm. One of our listeners today says, "Love Tim Pool, Josh Twenter. First time we've seen him here today. Good morning, Josh. Nice to have you here. Make sure you click like and subscribe. I like Tim Pool too, just so you know.
Chickens.
I like his chickens. Yes,
He has a chicken coop.
he does. She's a chicken fan. We've got, and he's looks like he's Trump 2024 as well. Are you getting paid by the Trump campaign?
Yeah,
No. Doug H says cannibalism is just too expensive. It'll cost you an arm and a leg. Very funny. This is that should get
ban that
ban this
ban
man,
that
ban
man.
this
No
man, ban this man. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host Austin Peterson. We're glad to have you here. Make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel if it's your first time to watch us here. Stephanie, you actually, not me, you were named by a senator, a federal senator from Maine, as someone who should be removed from social media. You want, yes, yeah.
Get the term they used about me, but basically I just I like to retweet and post about politicians, as you know.
Yeah, Senator
Yeah.
Angus King named you a internet troll.
Yes, because his name escapes me now, but who
Eric
was I tweeting?
Brakey.
Eric Brakey from Maine. I was tweeting about him and just supporting his campaign, but apparently I was an out of state something or another.
Out of state
That's
troll.
what they called, because I'm not from Maine.
Right.
Yes.
Would you want to be? I mean,
Right.
No.
But think about that for a second. A sitting U.S. senator contacted Twitter, and all of the politicians were doing
they
this.
contacted Twitter?
They contacted Twitter and told them
That
to
he was a
remove her,
problem.
that she was a problem.
How did you find this out?
In the Twitter drops, the Twitter files.
No.
So
Yeah,
from Matt
I never
Taibbi,
got banned. I
no,
don't think
they
my
didn't.
post ever got
They
deleted
didn't.
either.
Not all of the requests
Yeah.
made it through.
Right.
However, the requests that were made had been made public, and so we actually saw.
That is something that, man, I would
Dude,
frame that. Print that out and frame that.
I've never been so proud of my wife ever.
Legacy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put a baby in you.
Yeah, exactly. Working on it. Welcome to the Wake Up America show, where nothing is off limits. Everything is up for debate, and we will talk about anyone and anything that we choose. The Real Raz says Timmy Pool is a politician. Don't care for him in the least. So we got some pro Timmy Pools and we got some anti Timmy Pools.
Look, I don't even consume the guy's content. I don't like watching other people's stuff because I feel it makes you kind of get away from your own content creation. I don't want influence. But the one thing that I felt a lot of people did watch him for was the fact that he would actually be very reasonable. He would see it from both sides, because I guess he's a former leftist. But when I see him take this approach that he's done as far as being dishonest and willfully, that makes me question your integrity as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've watched you, I've seen the stuff that you do. And when you can sit there and look at both sides and say, look, these are things I disagree with Democrats on, these are things I agree with. Same thing with the right. And you can at least have the consistency to say, you know, these are my own beliefs. This is why I'm not going to just be on this cult side, whichever one you want to go with.
Let's talk
When
about
Tim
this.
doesn't do that.
Well, let's talk about this for a second, just like for being an influencer, right? Because I mean, you've got a much bigger audience than I do, right? So, like,
Not anymore.
well, no, you still do, right? So the temptation to grift
No.
once it starts to get big, because people have contacted me to advertise for things that I just can't advertise, right?
Yeah.
Like I tried your stuff, right? Your Shock CBD, and we should talk about that in a minute. And it worked, so I'm promoting it
Yeah.
because I wouldn't promote something that doesn't work. But when somebody comes to you with a lot of money and they want you to promote some crap that doesn't work, or is going to take advantage of your audience, I mean, that is a really difficult moral conundrum, because the problem is, John, the problem is that the people who get ahead are the people who cheat and lie and steal, man.
You're
And we
right,
see
but
it.
you're also here's the deal with that one though. Like when social media, when the political influencers on social media really started taking off back in the, I want to say 2015, 2016, the likes of Drano, Anna Paulina, typical liberal, educating liberals. A lot of these guys were my personal friends. Like we knew each other, and we had our own, you know, beliefs and stuff like that. The one thing I refused to do was to take money from any type of organization that another big thing was like Trump T-shirts that were made in China. Buy this gold coin with Trump's face on it, and these influencers get paid $200, $300, $500 for a post.
No.
I never took that money.
Yeah.
And I had a bigger following at the time. Like, I'm not going to do this, because the moment that you do that, you cross the Rubicon that you can never recross.
Yeah.
You sell out. So
You're
when
right.
people say, is like, that money, look, I've had the offers and opportunities, not to that extent, not like with coming and throwing you like a couple G's at you. But at the same token, it was like, I'm not going to do it, because once you compromise yourself, your audience will no longer trust you.
Yeah.
Tim Pool's getting butchered on the right now. People are like, dude, you sound like an NPC at this point. You've compromised yourself. Now, if Tim would have came out and said, you know, hey, I don't agree with that, but I think I'm more pro-Trump, and then you couldn't, but Trump needs to stop doing this as well, then I will respect that stance. Like, at least you're having consistency. The one thing, like I've talked about, but the thing I have with DeSantis is, why do you still have red flag laws in Florida? And nobody's talking about this, and they should be. So when people say, like, well, you're on team DeSantis, it's like, I'm on team common sense. Now, if Trump secures the primary, I'll vote Trump. You know, I'm more of a constitutionalist. I'm not an idiot. I'm not voting Biden. But, you know, I
You
just,
don't
I
vote
want
libertarian?
no.
Oh.
Libertarians are the biggest nerds out there. I don't care. They gatekeep harder than Mother Teresa's thighs. They do. They do. It's like, if you disagree on one topic, well, you're just not a real libertarian. They do. Shut up, you nerds. Shut up.
Oh God, yeah, shut up, nerds.
Cohen, like, I love watching him because he goes to town on. Like, he's the type of person though. I watch his content, and he gets it though. He gets it. He understands compromise,
And he's got a heart, you know.
he does. So, but I see a lot of people that I think they do the whole LP thing because it's a cool thing to do. You're above, like, I'm above both parties. I'm above the peasantry.
Corey C says, I like Tim. Everyone has crap opinions sometimes, but that doesn't mean they're a grifter. You know what grift this reminds me of, is that, you know, they're the real grifting that's going on. And I won't say his name just because I don't want this person to sue me, because they are in a position to sue people with the government. But I was contacted on behalf of, like, their media outreach organization with a cash offer to make videos in support of this politician, because they are getting investigated, and they wanted influencers on the right to go out and to say, this person is getting attacked by rhinos, blah blah blah. And I saw that, I read that, because I was like, if it was Thomas Massey, like, you wouldn't even have to pay me, right?
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the biggest things that I saw as of late that really pissed me off.
What?
With the
the attacks on Massey
for defending the Constitution.
They can't get enough of taking on Thomas Massey. And it's like,
Amish
Thomas
came out there
Massey
and
is
was
a
going-
libertarian nerd, but he's one that we'll give a pass to, because the guy's a genius, and he's a good fighter for our cause, and he doesn't back down to the Trump cult when they come after him.
Not at all.
And so he obviously, if somebody had asked me to do something like that for Massey, they wouldn't have had to pay me. But the fact that I saw that, and it was like, if I had accepted the money, I would have had to accept the gag order. So I wouldn't have been allowed to. I think you may have seen this when I showed you this. I might have showed you this. Or maybe I kind of just quietly ignored it, because when I saw that, I was like, man, once you do that, once you get into that kind of a grift,
Yep.
then you really are like sold out.
And your audience will never trust you again, nor should they.
Right, but here's the thing. So, like, I wouldn't consider myself a grifter to be like a consultant, right? If you're a political consultant.
Yeah.
So, like, here's the thing. Here's how you know.
At least be upfront and honest about it.
Not that all libertarians are stupid, but I think most of them are, especially the ones who run for president company included. President company included, because I'll tell you why. Because if I were running for president as libertarian right now, I would approach me and say, Austin, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to avoid the pitfalls? What mistakes did you make? All this kind of stuff. Like, it wouldn't be hard to just send me a DM and say, Austin, would you consider consulting?
Yeah.
And for $150,000,
Oh, absolutely.
I would say,
well, that's different though.
Here's how you can win.
I'm not against being paid to represent an organization.
Right.
But it's kind of like, at least put the billboard out there to say, look, I'm paid by these guys, so at least understand where I'm coming from.
Don't make it a secret.
And I think if people were more honest about that, it'd be different. But then again, also have the intellectual honesty to be consistent in your calling out one side versus the other. And I don't like that.
Yeah, no, you're right. So you should, what do you call it? Disclose that you are being paid by someone to do that. That people say that about politicians, like they should have to wear
who's sponsoring
the logos of
like
the corporations, that are sponsoring them.
True.
I think that's actually not a bad idea. If you're just speaking of grifting, we got to grift for a minute here. If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, click that like button and subscribe. I do want to talk to you, John, especially because you're in studio, about your awesome line of CBD products.
So
Let's hit. I've got a special scene set up here for Shock CBD and a little theme song with some awesome 80s cop music in the background. ShellshockCBD.com is the website. The code is AP4Liberty. I'm going to be honest with you, John. I'm frightened of the Delta bar.
As you should be. As you should be.
Scared of the Delta bar, but I know.
How much of it do you eat at a time?
No.
There are people.
Make some s'mores with it and see what happens.
Yeah, there are people out there I know who are they can do like 100 milligrams in dosages and stuff like that, and then they'll go out and they'll do a podcast. I'm not one of those guys. I will say though that we did do a podcast a couple of weeks ago where I did eat one live on camera.
You did,
and it was a delayed reaction. So later we went to McDonald's.
Yes,
and and I was there at 10. Like we were there at like 10:20, and then so we ate breakfast, and then I ate lunch when it switched to lunch.
Yes.
So that's the stuff you have to post to advertise the product, because it works great.
It's quite effective.
Yeah.
If you're looking for the second,
this could be like a sponsor for this.
Oh my God!
Get the grimace. Get the grimace shake. So get the grimace shake. But not everything that you get from Shock CBD is psychoactive. A lot of the things are pain relief products, CBD products. And Stephanie, you really love the supplements.
The elderberry.
Elderberry. Yeah, talk to us about that.
That video was so sweet you sent me. Thank you. She was really excited opening up the box.
Oh, she loves it.
Girl, it's trying to be super, super healthy and all natural. And I mean, apple cider vinegar just tastes like crap. I don't know if you've ever tried to drink it.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, so yeah, the gummies. I mean, you can't even tell that there's apple cider vinegar in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elderberry is so good for when you're sick. To get better.
Dash over on the stream is saying Delta bar ? Delta bar. So the Delta bar, it looks like the Willy Wonka bar, right? It says Delta 8, and it's 12 servings in this with Shock CBD, and it's 40 milligrams per square. Now, mind you, when I go like on a canoe trip or something like that, and I'm ready to party, I'll have 5 milligrams of something, and I'll be like, for the rest of the day, I'll be like, do crimson and clover, right? But 40 milligrams, I'm pretty sure would make me dead. Not dead, but like dead in my head, and then you think you're dead.
You're done.
Done. It would probably be like the very first time that I ever felt a psychoactive effect, and like I started seeing like crystals and lights and things like that. So use with caution, but use it. And get it at ShellshockCBD.com. Use that code.
I work a lot with like talking to veterans, and so veterans who have PTSD.
Yes.
Has this been shown to work?
Oh God,
I do therapy and I work with veterans or people who have PTSD. So it's like, I guess, what feedback do you get from people who do have PTSD?
Feedback. Always amazing. The beauty of Delta 8 is there's no negative side effects. It's non-addictive, and it's a great way to be able to kind of help chill your anxiety, get those thoughts under control. And it's, it's the same as getting high. I mean, it is going to get you stoned. It's a great feeling.
Yeah.
And I love it. I'll take it in the evening time because I feel like if I do the podcast, I tend to get very, like, Delta 8 kind of gives me energy.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm high. I'm baked out of my gourd, but I'm on pre-workouts. It's like, oh, you know what we should do? Just crazy stuff.
Funny because
It's like cocaine in a way.
It's so fucking that fun. I'm not doing cocaine. It's not that much energy because I've seen Hunter Biden. You're not going 175. But it's a great way to relax and just take the edge off.
It's not like cocaine.
No.
Not that I would know. But
It
it does actually do the same thing for me, where it actually kind of makes me a little wired.
Yeah.
I have to give a big thank you and a shout out to Corey C, who dropped a super chat for us. Thanks, Corey. Appreciate that. $10, man. You rock.
Nice.
Elizabeth Press says, do they ship to, and I can't see it, Illinois?
All 50
You do
states.
ship
All
it.
50 states.
It's legal in all 50
Nope.
states. No, okay.
Nope. And I'm just going to leave it alone there.
There you go. Elizabeth Price says, do they ship to Illinois? Answer is yes. There you go. So if you want to get a 10% discount and, of course, let John know that I'm doing my job, hit that AP4 Liberty code there to get your 10% off. And, John, you stand by this product so much that if the person who orders it doesn't like it and it doesn't work, you'll give them back their money.
100%.
Yeah.
So cool.
I see a lot of companies. The problem that we're facing with CBD in general is it's been marketed in the wrong way for a very long time. People say it's like, oh, CBD cures cancer. No, it's an anti-inflammatory. This stuff does wonder for stress and anxiety. I didn't believe in it either until I had actually tried some, and it worked. And so the price points when we first launched Shell Shock back in 2019, pre-COVID, were just insane. Just insane. And the reason they are able to charge so much is that it actually does work when you don't get the gas station kind that's watered down. So
the gas station.
the gas station CBD is like getting your supplements from Walmart. You're getting a very generic brand. It's proprietary blends. You don't really know what's in there. Ours, it's MCT oil is the carrier. So we have CBD broken down, the MCT oil, and it's healthy. It's great for you. It's I shouldn't say like it's like a great supplement, but it's one of these things that when it's no different than taking a Tylenol for a headache. If you're feeling stressed, take a little bit, and I'm telling you, it's kind of like when you are either in full-blown fast mode or full-blown stop mode, how do you explain the feeling of tranquility? It's very difficult. So what CBD, we have isolate, which is THC free. We have full spectrum, which is 0.3% THC. It's not going to get you stoned. But the Delta 8 definitely will. We have Delta 8, Delta 9, and our topicals are doing insanely well. And then we have a CBD energy mix. And this stuff works better than pre-workout because you don't get the jitters and you do feel, and you won't pop hot either.
The thing that I like about it is the edible things, because I can't smoke, right? I've got an asthma and I can't be, I think it's bad for you to smoke pretty much anything anyway, right? So these edibles like give you a way to ingest it in a much healthier way. But the thing that's great about it too is that it tastes great. When edibles were first starting to come out into the marketplace, they were just like, they tasted like weed, right? Like you were eating grass, and it's just disgusting. But these especially taste really good. The pineapple ones taste really good. The green apple ones taste awesome.
But we got two different ones. We got to make sure that we tell people the right thing because the Fallout gummies are CBD and they're THC free. Everything is clearly marked too, to make sure. But our biggest seller is our rack out gummies because we took 15 milligrams of CBD and mixed it with 5 milligrams of melatonin. You combine those two and it will knock you out. That's the biggest thing we get from veterans is insomnia, sleep apnea, things like that. And so many people have basically got off their medication to say, I'm taking your stuff now, non-addictive, and it's affordable. It's clearly affordable.
Sarah Palacios, she's our good friend. Let's give her a round of applause. She says she's got a question for you.
Sure.
Recommendations for what to order for anxiety without getting tired or groggy.
That just means take less CBD. Like if you take too much, you will get tired. It will tire you down. That's why the CBD with melatonin works great. But if you take, like, say, for example, our 1,500 milligrams, you take half a dropper, that's a good place to start. And then just go by that. Usually it takes about 20 minutes. You'll feel it kick in.
So let's talk about that because I think this is, if you're looking for like controlling your dosage there, Sarah, in terms,
I know edibles, it's hard to,
it can be difficult to parse it out because you're trying to like break it down into pieces. So if you use the drops,
the tincture is marked.
The tincture is marked for how many milliliters you're going to take.
I want to say it's 100 in there. I could be wrong. You have to look at it.
I'm an old man now. I'm losing my sight, so I can't read it. Unfortunately,
we have like various different flavors: cherry, vanilla, orange, citrus, peppermint. We got bomb pop. I wouldn't recommend that because it's oil based, so it doesn't mix. Now, if we want to do like water based, the technology on that is very expensive.
I've tried those before. They'll have like the fizzy cherry drinks and stuff like that. The best thing that I've ever tasted though in my life was key lime pie soda. and it was just so
Yeah.
freaking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, those rack out are great, says Corey C. He's bought from us before.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So Sarah, she says, fantastic. Thank you guys. You're so welcome. Sarah, don't forget to use that code AP for Liberty today when you get your goodies from John. We appreciate that very much. Supporting the shellshockcbd.com business is supporting the Wake Up America show. Let's spread it around, our money and our lives, our fortune, and our sacred marijuana.
Well, that was the, we don't have weed. I mean, we have weed in Texas, it's just not legal.
Yeah.
I don't smoke. Yeah, I do the Delta 8
Yeah.
because I don't like smoking. But we stopped at this one place right next to the hotel, and we got a little pre-roll. And last night we toked up, and dude, I only did 3 hits, and I was coughing up a lung because I
Yeah.
can't do this. But on those 3 hits, I can tell the difference between, say, for example, something that's like really strong. I mean, anybody can.
Yeah.
But it was a good high. But I like Delta 8 better. And I know a lot of people will disagree. It's like, you're probably just shilling for your own thing. Yes and no. I've smoked weed before, and weed does come. Delta 9 comes with a certain level of paranoia, whereas Delta 8 does not.
The thing that I liked when I did smoke or vape is that when you would vape THC, standard marijuana, you could really control where you're at in terms of your head. And so like that's one thing that I really miss, being able to kind of like because it's very fast versus the edibles where it takes a little bit of time to release, and you're kind of like, oh, I'll just take it.
And that's what I have to warn people: give it 45 minutes.
It took me 2 hours because the later I was like, shit. So I took another one and I was like, oh, I'm gonna die.
I also have one. It's our most expensive product. It's called Dark Matter, and it comes. That's the one in the skull. That is
Like
every dropper is 100 milligrams of Delta 8. Because we were getting a lot of people on the show complaining, saying, I smoke a lot of weed, but I want to support you. You have anything stronger? It's like, we can increase dosage. Like if you
buy this.
I can't mess with it.
I watched this guy, Joey Diaz. He's got on Joe Rogan's podcast a few times, and he's really funny. He's this Hispanic comedian, and on his podcast, he will not only will he like smoke a bong, smoke a joint, all that stuff. Then he will like take one of these stars that are like 100 milligrams for the star and 500 milligrams sometimes he'll take for that, and then he'll like and by the time the podcast is over, and I don't know how he's actually like awake, but he's like, like just like a zombie, like swirling around and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, that doesn't even look fun to me, right?
That's like Jim Brewer be like twerking, like, good lord, man.
No, I like it when it's like it's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
You get a little buzz, and like you're feeling like the Brady Bunch thing. I'll go for a walk outside now. Summer sun is calling my name, and then everybody, all the flowers are out there, and you're just loving it, and everything smells good, and the music feels like 10 times better.
Like microdosing right before the gym, because it's a great feeling, because you kind of go over there and like the limits in your brain just get kind of taken off, and I feel a much better workout. I feel more focused, and I feel happy.
Yeah,
I feel very happy.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Like some of the greatest times of my life have been on THC, and certain things that you do, like it takes like things like music and amps it up, right? It makes it better.
Sex on Delta 8
absolutely
is amazing.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you this, even there are like certain styles of music that I'm into now that I did not like before I had ever tried it. And and it was because it's reggae. You listen to reggae.
Mine's synthwave. I don't know what it is. I love synthwave.
Dude, we love synthwave. We work out to synthwave all the time. But the thing is that like when you're stoned on synthwave, it's way better. When you're listening to it by itself, it can be kind of like, okay, right? It's okay, it's decent. But when you're stoned, like something about the vibrations, right? And then when it's reggae, like that beat that you wouldn't normally kind of jive to,
you're gonna think I'm wrong. Tango music. That's tango music.
You're a tango guy.
Yeah.
Let's call it the tango. What the hell?
Argentinian tango. I got divorced, and I really wanted to start focusing on myself, learning more about what I wanted. I took up fencing, flamenco guitar, and did tango, and I fell in love with tango. And it's one of those things that it basically makes you start learning again. And of all the dances there are, the tango is the hardest, because you will never learn everything in your entire lifetime. It's just there's so much variety to it. Versus you do a ballroom, you do a waltz, you can learn that very quickly. It's just mastering it is different. But I just started doing it, and I fell in love with it. Now I help the people I train under, help them teach like the level 1 class. And, I go to the gym. And I was a former drill sergeant, so a lot of my Joes follow me, and they're just kind of like they see their old drill sergeant now dancing the tango. But it is a very romantic, sexy dance, and so in so doing it, I've gotten to travel. We just came back from Buenos Aires a few months ago, where we went over there because that's where the tango was born. And people don't know the history of the tango. It's funny. The history of the tango is back during the days when a lot of the Argentinians were going to the brothels to get their prostitutes. There was nothing to do because they waited in line. So the tango was kind of like the evolution of the ballroom dance the lower class would do. The ballroom was what the rich people danced to
Right.
because they could afford to
The
do the
waltz.
lessons, the waltz. And then the tango was kind of like the ghetto version of that.
Yeah, it's like it was the twerking.
It was the twerking. To them, it was. And so, learning that, these men started inventing the tango. And once the tango kind of really picked up, there was not enough followers. There were too many leaders. There were too many dudes. So these women were very selective with who they would dance with. So men, in turn, had to start dancing with men to get better, so they could attract a woman. And that's how the tango was born. So it's like born out of prostitutes.
Have you danced with a man, Sean?
Dancing with men.
Yeah. Not only do you dance, you also have to be led, because to be a good leader, you need to know what it's like to be led. So you can because everything is driven by the shoulders. Sounds gay, I don't care, because it's one of those things. When you can be a good follower, you can be an even better leader. Because the thing that I love about the tango, the most romantic part about it, is it's about the woman. The man is there to lead,
right?
But it's to show off the woman. The woman is what makes it look incredible. So as a good leader, you have to be soft, yet still give them the guidance they need to understand the moves. And that's the beauty. It's just like life.
I love it. I think
women in partnership, but the man has to be the leader, or a woman can lead too. There's a lot of women that lead.
We get a lot of women watching this show this morning. I think they're all getting a little horny. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm listening
to CBD Lube.
We're grateful to have you here. If you're just tuning in for the very first time, this is a little bit of a wacky show, isn't it? Our friend John Burk from Shock CBD is joining us right now. He's also the host of the All American Savage Show, which you can find if you're watching us on Rumble this morning. He streams Monday through Friday as well at noon Central Time. Make sure you subscribe to his channel as well and check out his website, shellshockcbd.com, and use my code AP4Liberty. That's AP, the number 4. AP for Liberty at shellshockcbd.com, so you can get that 10% discount. If you don't like any of the products, guess what? He'll give them back to you. You can give them back to him, and he will give you a money-back guarantee.
No questions asked.
Our friend Sarah Palacio says that she says, or excuse me, Jose Palacios is asking the question. He says, how would it work for someone that can't handle THC? It freaks me out. Can't stand being high. He gets paranoia.
That's usually a common symptom of consuming Delta 9. I would say try the Delta 8, do a very small dose, and just kind of test your limits. And also surround yourself in a good positive environment. Turn music on that you really like. The reason I brought up the tango thing is that music resonates with me. So when I'm on the Delta 8, I feel like I dance better. I'm more fluid. But the music you really listen to, you really appreciate. It's like you feel this connection. So that's what I would suggest for that. Just do a smaller amount, be in a good environment. And yeah, look, I didn't consume THC either. I was fresh out of the Army, never did really drugs at all. And then we launched Shell Shock, and Delta 8 started making its scene. And I tried it, and I was like, oh, this stuff is incredible. Like, I love it. But when people are so accustomed to like being in control, and it's like, I need to know what's going on. Excuse me.
I like to be in control.
Yes, it's very difficult to put yourself in the mindset to where you can still be in control, but you understand that you are now inebriated to a degree, which people usually don't have an issue with when it comes to alcohol. But with THC, it's a different kind of experience, and to me, it's better. There's no hangover. It's not bad for you. You're not ingesting like a lot of fats when you're drinking, say, for a beer or something like that, or liquor, hard liquor. And you're taking in all that sugar, it's getting turned to fat because half you fat asses don't work out. So all that's going to hapen.
I do. I work out. I just eat a lot of food.
I can say this because by 2035, like over 75% of Americans will be classified as obese. So it's the truth.
Rare Camellia just joined us here. She says that she's here. Work meeting kept getting in the way. That's okay. We're glad to have you here, Camellia. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. For me, so they used to call jazz N-word jazz, right? And it was or they would call it reefer jazz.
Yeah.
And it was because back in the day they would play, blacks would play jazz and smoke reefer and do jazz. And
bro, drugs have had such a massive impact on Beatles
on music. Yeah, absolutely.
You can't tell me that stuff doesn't open up the brain to just create a different.
Oh, it totally does. Yeah.
Read about who's like a public figure, they've used some sort of drug.
Yeah, LSD. And not me personally, but I don't blame them. It's like, look, if it gets the creative juices flowing, go to town.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, as long as you're doing it responsibly,
yeah.
too many people get addicted and do things too much. So, I do want to say that it's important.
Churchill, I mean, he probably drank too much.
Possibly, but he
Although he
also
did a lot of things
he also
in
did
life.
defeat the Nazis while
We're
he was
drinking
trying.
from the Nats, and we're drinking the sea.
So it's
It was on Stein's show, and I told him about you.
So
It's like,
does
you need to
that-
get Austin. And
yeah.
Alex
Yeah.
literally took I didn't ask him to.
Yeah.
Tyler brought some product, and Alex, like 20 minutes prior to the show, and Alex Stein is very high energy.
He's like, it looks like he's on coke. Yeah.
And when you go on that show, it's like I don't watch other people's content.
Yeah.
But I had a feeling like this is gonna be high intensity. But he took a gummy about 20 minutes prior to the show.
No way.
One gummy, one normal 25 milligrams, which is enough.
Uh-huh.
And then during the show, he takes 2 more.
Oh my God.
And then he takes 2 rack outs. Then he takes 2 fallouts. Dude, he
World?
took like 175 milligrams of Delta 8 and like 50 milligrams of CBD, which is gonna magnify it. So I messaged him on Instagram, like, hey, how you holding up? He's like, bro, I went home and I passed out.
Oh, jeez.
I'm like, great.
Alex Stein seems like he'd be fun to party with for sure.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Since we're talking about drugs, I think we should probably talk about drugs in the White House. If we're saying these things about drugs and that some people can be more creative on them, do we want potentially allegedly the vice president of the United States to be on cocaine? Now, here's my thing. Okay,
It would explain a lot.
it would explain. Yes, it would explain a lot. Here's the thing. All right, I think consenting adults should be allowed to do what consenting adults should want to do. But when you're my employee, I might not want you to be doing a job while you're on heavy drugs, okay? Doing blow, right?
Yeah.
When you're a public employee, when you work for us, which, work for us, right? Bullshit, right? When you work for us, probably not the best thing to have the second in line to the commander-in-chief doing blow, right? Which we're not saying Kamala Harris is doing blow. However, the cocaine that was found is in the area where Vice President Kamala Harris parks her cars. So, maybe here's the thing. It's a joke to think that they aren't doing all kinds of drugs in there. I mean, did you ever read about what John F. Kennedy was doing back in the day in the White House and all that stuff? Not just
backdoor prostitution. And come on.
Not just
another show. Yeah.
She knows that the interns, Fiddle and Faddle.
Wait, what is this?
Yeah.
Twin ladies that he was with.
Yeah, they were his interns. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The Secret Service.
Bro, come on.
Yeah, the Secret Service agents had code names for them, and the one was Fiddle and the other was Faddle.
Oh my God.
And because he had back pains and he had all kinds of problems, they think.
Pains. He didn't have CBD.
Well, he was injured during World War II, so
U-boat driver.
Yeah, well, not a U-boat. He was like a Willie boat driver, and it got blown up by. No, a Japanese U-boat shot him. It shot his boat, and he actually saved the lives of his entire crew. So he was a war hero, and he had had back problems ever since. After that, where he couldn't even stand up. That was actually one of the reasons why he. They say that he probably died because remember we went and saw the limo at the Ford Museum, Stephanie, and how he was sitting up higher than in the back of the museum. This is why a lot of people think it was the CIA, right? But we know it was Oswald because of the angle of the shot from the Carcano. But he wasn't able, when he got shot the first time in the throat, he wasn't able to get down and to get down in the vehicle because he can't sit up. He couldn't sit up straight because of his back issues. So they braced him up in the vehicle. So once he got shot the first time in the throat, he went like this and then leaned forward a little bit. And then the second shot came and got him in the back of the head. Well, if he had not had those back problems and been braced up in the vehicle, it's possible he could have gotten down into the bottom of the limousine and not been shot in the head. But history is what it is. That being said, it is rumored that John F. Kennedy was one of the biggest, heaviest drug users in White House history in order for him to deal with the chronic pain that he had. So if you've got chronic pain or something like that, I understand, consenting adults are going to have to.
I'm sure Biden has a lot of pain.
Exactly.
Causing a lot of pain. That's
exactly. But here's the thing. Biden's probably on Alzheimer's meds.
Oh, yeah.
Right? A big open secret in D.C. is that Alzheimer's medication is regularly delivered to Capitol Hill, not just the White House, right? Which we don't know if it's being delivered to the White House, but we do know that there are people who are setting policy, dealing with Ukraine and Russia conflict, conducting diplomacy while under the effect of Alzheimer's drugs, medications. I mean, we all know what's her name.
The emperor has no clothes.
What's her name? The lady in Dianne Feinstein Weinstein from California and stuff like that. She doesn't know where she's at from one day to the next.
Ginsburg was like drooling on herself and she still held the screen. I'm like, come on, man. You can John Fetterman. You see when John Fetterman introduced Biden, it was like two vegetables talking. It would, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is what our country's being led by. Like our political system is such a joke right now. It's all political theatrics. It's like we've had the Kardashians now interject themselves into the political space, and now our politicians are acting the same way. It's the dumbest thing I've ever
But
seen.
you know what the sad thing about that is, John, is that the Kardashians, like the most libertarian shit that Trump did was with the Kardashians, passing the First Step Act, which I like to like rub in the MAGA people's faces just because I'm like, I really hope that when Donald Trump gets back in the White House, that he will team up with Kim Kardashian again because it drives them crazy.
No,
She's a lawyer. She's an attorney. She works on criminal justice reform. So like, I don't disagree with the things that Kim Kardashian is advocating for politically, but MAGA people do. And I also like to remind people, I used to say things like, is Donald Trump the most pro-vaccine candidate of all the Republicans?
I see you doing that. And I love the fact that it's like people call me a troll. It's like this dude's like a different kind of troll, though. It's kind of like you're just twisting that.
But I don't disagree with Donald Trump and his stances and things like that. The thing is that Trump supporters, but here's the thing, there's a serious point to my trolling. Okay. I troll with her for a reason. Okay. Because it's the libertarian things that Donald Trump did that his supporters despise the most.
Such as what?
The First Step Act.
Okay.
The First Step Act, the major criminal justice reform, the right to try. He signed the right to try legislation for our terminally ill cancer patients to be able to try things like Delta 8 or other alternative treatments and things like that.
Yeah.
Dude, the one of the greatest ironies during the pandemic. Oh, wait.
It's the stick that you're holding.
What is it?
This is my whip.
He's giving me this look every time he's doing it. Like he's gonna
come here. Holding ancestors.
Oh my god.
Where was I going with this? Oh yeah. Okay. So we were talking about the libertarian things that Trump did.
Yeah, so he passed the First Step Act, the try.
God, it was, but what
Those
was
were libertarian laws.
I troll for a cause. I haven't taken any CBD or Delta 8, so I should be able to recall this.
You should do one of the shows on Delta 8.
I tried, but it took too long for it to kick in. It was too late. It was when I went to McDonald's. But no, I know I troll for a reason because the thing is that Donald Trump's supporters, like the things that they don't like that Donald Trump did that are libertarian, I support him for, right? The things that he did that are not libertarian are what his supporters love him for the most, the tariffs, right? But a lot of the things that he did, I can agree with. It's just amazing that they consider themselves libertarian adjacent, or many of them are former libertarians and things like that, and they buy into. Yeah, God, I lost my train of thought on this one. So maybe I need to take a gummy and it'll bring it back. But I just feel like there's a lot of good things that Donald Trump did, and what's funny is that the left is the same way. The left doesn't like the libertarian things that Donald Trump did. As a matter of fact, when he bombed, what was his name, Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general. The left were the first ones to come out in support of it.
The war.
Dude,
he's negotiating with Kim Jong-un, World War III, and they were just very nuclear. Everything was going nuclear. Everything was going to be the end of the world. Yada yada yada. So
right to try is what you spaced on, said Elizabeth Press. Yeah, well, right to try, which is funny because we're talking about drugs. Anyways, so I guess I'll reset here and ask the question in regards to the cocaine that was found in the White House.
Okay.
Should they be prosecuted? I mean, should the Social Security, should the Secret Service go out and conduct an investigation and prosecute someone to the fullest extent of the law?
Well, it's a federal crime to use cocaine, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, is it in a private home?
Yeah. The White House is not really considered to be a private home.
It was the parking lot.
It's a museum with a military base.
Parking lot?
So it's in the,
on a table inside.
So, we don't have the exact details.
Like dropped to the ground, maybe.
Right. So the location they said was in a secure area that not everyone has access to, and that is the area where the vice president parks her car. That's the information that I have on the cocaine. So here's what I see.
The lost and found. See if anyone comes to get it. It's a lot, I'm sure.
Yep, down near the Situation Room. Average people can't get in there. That's where the vice president's car is parked. So New details on the cocaine that's found in the White House. I mean, I don't really think anybody who's an adult should be getting in trouble for cocaine,
Well,
but these are people who would gladly arrest any of you.
And how many people has she put in prison for the
dude,
same thing?
thank you.
So it's like, if you are going to sit there and say these are the standards, then you have to apply. But the thing that just really irks me, dude, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening to Hunter Biden. He's getting a slap on the wrist. But if you or me that were doing tax evasion with a gun charge and also criminal possession and drugs, we'd be in jail.
This is interesting. So I'm seeing this. So we got a couple of breaking news items on this story. House Republicans are now opening investigation into the cocaine found in the White House.
Of course.
House Oversight requests Secret Service briefing on White House cocaine. And here's interesting. So Kayleigh McEnany is breaking with Donald Trump on this issue. She says there's no way that Hunter Biden was the source of the cocaine at the White House. She dismissed the idea that it came from Hunter Biden. She says for it to be Hunter Biden, he left on Friday. He was at Camp David. There's no way that cocaine could sit for a 72-hour period. So I would rule him out at this point. I'm not sure. I mean,
sit for a 72-hour period.
I mean, it can.
Yeah, it can, absolutely. Yeah, it makes its way from Colombia to the U.S. So, I mean, it's not about sitting there. I think somebody would notice it, that she's saying down here, right? So she says Hunter Biden has been publicly open about his struggles, wrote a memoir about these battles and stuff like that.
How much was it? Like, was it like a whole large bag or like a little bit of dropping? It's like, what was there paraphernalia around it?
I've heard that it comes in 8 balls, and from an 8 ball, which it looks like an 8 ball in terms of the size and stuff. From there, it gets divvied out into smaller bags. From there, which are like dime bags is what they call it.
Details.
I feel like even the details they're giving us are probably lies anyway. It's hard to formulate a real good opinion or accurate opinion when the premise of it is built on lies. So
right.
They're going to give us the truth. Yeah, they're not going to prosecute. But the Republicans, Republicans have to posture on this one. Absolutely. They're going to say, like, what investigations? In reality, give it a week, it'll blow over. No one's really going to give a damn about it. And we're going to move on to the next thing to be outraged about. Really, let's just be honest. Cocaine in the White House is not the worst thing we've seen in there. I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm certainly not trying to justify it. But when you got Bill Clinton getting blowjobs in the Oval Office behind the big desk, it's kind of like, this place is not a prestigious place anymore. So the adults are no longer in charge, and now it's turned into a playground. You get trannies blasting their tits on the White House lawn. Like, I'm sorry, it's just the whole thing's it's a circus. It's a clown show.
Brian Lewis says, I rule out Hunter because there was something left in the bag.
There, that's a good point. That's actually a really good point. Yeah. Drug dealers not going to leave their stash laying around. No.
I mean,
well, Hunter Biden's not worried about money.
Here's the thing. It probably wasn't Joe Biden, right? It probably wasn't Kamala Harris, right? It was probably a staffer, right, who used it, and they probably were having a party at the house late at night.
I don't know. Because think about this. You said you've been to the White House, right?
Yeah.
I've been to the White House, and to even get into the White House, I've done the tour. And they have drug dogs there. They have high-level security.
Right.
So that your common staffer, they're not sneaking that in. They're not getting that in. It's going to have to be somebody that's got some pull, got some sway. I don't think it's going to be that low level.
Do they have to go through security every day?
Every day.
Oh, okay.
Every single one of them.
Is there anyone exempt from going through security?
Top level peeps.
Right. Could have, like the president and the vice president.
Top level
the chief of staff,
that's
maybe.
What I'm saying. It could be a staffer.
It's going to be somebody at high level, you think, right? Because they're going to sniff everybody that comes in.
That's the most secure, well, outside of Fort Knox, I don't know if that's true anymore, but it's like the most secure place in America. It's the White House.
Yeah.
Don't forget cocaine Mitch McConnell. Somebody said could have been Mitch. Katie556 says, I think Dan Bongino said only family can bypass security.
I know Katie. She listens to my show.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
They're awesome,
That was we picked up Katie as a friend from your show. We appreciate that.
Do I get paid for that?
Yeah, you do. Okay. Yeah, we'll give you a nice
family
happy kiss. Yes. I think Dan Bongino said only family can bypass security. So that would mean that, could be that goes back to Hunter Biden, right? So unless Dr. Jill, I think Dr. Jill's getting a little goofy with something in the stash. I don't know. This is all speculation,
too
but
low key.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Too low key.
Maybe Joe needs it, right? Because he's so sleepy Joe,
players.
right?
Maybe does he have a girl on the side?
You're talking about Hunter Biden at that point.
I don't think he can probably even do it. I think he's too old.
Probably.
He's past the point of no return. The ship sailed a long time ago.
They came out like 10 years ago with it showed like this old guy who since he was at the end of his life, he started doing cocaine, and it was he did too much, he overdosed and died and stuff like that. So I think Maybe you get
go
to that
out,
point.
and
You get to that point in your life, and you say, "All right, I'm ready to move on." All right,
yeah.
all right. Let's talk about something else. It's time to move on. Let me reset real quick. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host Austin Peterson. We're doing the show a little bit later today, so we can have our buddy John Burk, as pictured on camera right there, on the show today. He is the host of the All American Savage Show, which you can watch on Rumble and YouTube and anywhere that you get your podcast devices. You can listen to John Burke's All American Savage Show. It's a great show. It streams live Monday through Friday at noon Central Time on Rumble, YouTube. Where else?
Rumble, YouTube, Kick, wherever podcasts are downloaded. You can get the audio version on iTunes, Spotify, things like that. But if you want to go watch the live, sound like with you, go over on Rumble, go over on Kick, YouTube, it's John Burke Official. On Twitter, it's John Burke 39. I get banned left and right. I do want to push pause on this real quick and kind of I forget how you and I met. Like I had you on my show years ago, and it was a debate on the bump stock ban. And at the time, I was in favor of it. And Austin kind of woke me up to the actual in-depth reasoning and meaning behind the Constitution. So I don't know if you call it red pill, black pill, white. Everything's a pill these days. But Austin definitely kind of woke me up to Milton Friedmanism, Sowell, Paine, all these people, and kind of opened my eyes wide open. And so after that, it made me start questioning everything that I thought I knew or I thought to be correct and helped me become more independent and critically thinking. So when you talk about like I have followers that come to your show, you know, the numbers that I get on Rumble are really good. And all of this stuff is coming from the fact that basically you woke me up to a lot of things. So when people give me credit, like, oh, I love listening to your opinions, like, well, that came from this guy. Like Austin is the one that like woke me up. So that's why I told him, I told Andy Priscilla, it's like, you need to get Austin on this show. Because you and I don't see eye on everything either, and I love that because
See eye to eye with him on everything either.
and that's how it should be. You know, if everybody's thinking the same and somebody ain't thinking, Patton talks about that.
It's because you're both shorter than me. The Wake Up America show brought to you Monday through Friday,
Than you.
7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. You can watch us here and download our audio podcast as well. We're grateful to have you here. If you like this show, make sure you click like on the stream. Have you done that yet? What are you doing? Click that like button to subscribe to the channel so that you can get more opinions that my wife and friend John Burke don't agree with on the Wake Up America show. And again, we are doing a little bit of a later program today. We typically are 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Just FYI, if you want to find us on Monday.
4:30 to get my ass here 2 hours. It's like he says I go up at 4:30. I'm like, bro.
I get up at 4:30. So
them army days are over.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So we're going to move on to another topic. I've been excited to bring this up. This is the title segment of the show, Airplane Freakouts. So we got to talk about this because it used to be that you would see an airplane freak out just once in a blue moon. You would hear about it. There didn't used to be video cameras on every seat now has a video camera on an airplane. Yeah, because we all got our phones.
Oh, okay. I was like, I didn't know that.
Cameras
same.
on the little screens that are watching you.
Try and keep up, guys. All right. So everybody has a cell phone.
That would be a little freaky.
Everybody has a cell phone, and everybody is recording at all times when you're in public. If you're on an airplane and somebody freaks out, there's going to be video of it. We're going to see it.
World Star.
We've seen, yes.
Cameras on the plane, though.
Probably.
Within the plane interior.
Probably, right? I think so.
Yeah.
In the cockpit, yes, but I've never seen any footage outside of a camera phone showing the inside of a plane. So
you're probably right. Yeah, we would.
They should do though. I think they should do that.
Yeah, we probably would have seen it at some point. But the funniest one that I saw recently was this lady who comes on and she's like that guy back there is not real and all this kind of stuff, and she's fine. But there was some boxer. What is this story? This guy who
I just saw this yesterday. He's like a British guy and same premise, but he gets up and he starts screaming at this woman, and it was kind of I couldn't tell what he was saying, and then he runs to go open the door. They're in flight, and he's trying to open the door, and basically people tackle him and subduing a bunch of dudes. Yeah, they like put him on the ground, but from what they were saying is they're what was it drug use? I'm not sure. It's either way, but he literally made a shot to go open the door, get the cat, and I guess jump out of the airplane.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here, so I got to fly home tonight. Like, I swear to God, if I see one of these dudes, I'm clubbing them. I will club your ass. Like, absolutely not.
It's doing. Jump out of the airplane.
Good point.
Could be. I mean, just
trying to commit suicide.
Again, probably drugs, right?
I think it was drugs, quite honestly, because like with the one lady who talked about, like the guy was a shapeshifter. I don't know. It's drugs. I'm not sure if that's what she said or something. Like I'm just like,
right. I mean, yeah. There is a lot of. a lot of weirdness out there these
Wow.
days, but
Walk.
I think I've got the clip. Hold on, let me just grab it real quick and drop it in for our listeners so they can see what I'm talking about here.
On YouTube, since I can't see it, maybe I
Yeah.
can look while you're playing.
Yeah,
Here we go.
sound.
Pull it. Take a listen to this. Here we
Oh,
go.
hey, mate, just get out. Hey, mate, just everyone is, come on, please. You! Marco and Tony Barrera, it's your time!
Look at everyone filming, man.
Oh, yeah, I'm filming, mate.
What's wrong? Whoa.
Someone just said audio is weird for me. For me, because my audio is weird.
So as you can see from that video, like the guys jumped on him immediately, right? And Stephanie and I were talking about this in regards to terrorism. Would you step in and do something? Obviously, we kind of have to these days. But I guess the question that we have to ask is why? Why is this happening so much more often? Like it picked up with COVID, and I thought maybe after people kind of started to calm down after the pandemic, that this would start to settle down. But like, you got to understand, like you're committing federal crimes when you do crap on an airplane like that. What I mean, is it just are we getting stupider? Like, what is this, John?
Stop doing drugs before you get on the plane. Damn.
What do you mean? That's when you're supposed to do the drugs, so you can sleep.
Have a drink, or maybe take a little gummy or something like that. But I don't know what these people are doing. But clearly, and the other thing is, in both situations, I didn't see a air marshal.
We talk about that a lot. I looked up if there's actually air marshals on every plane, and there's not.
No, there's not. But it's
And
kind of
so
like you
maybe
figure
it's
to
like
have two
these
flights.
things are happening on just planes that don't have
Yeah,
them.
it's interesting to say.
Yeah.
Like one statistic that I read was that air marshals are only on like 1/3 of flights or something like that. So it's not
There's not enough.
There's not enough to go around.
I feel like there should be security on every airplane because you are literally stuck in a box with people in the air.
Yeah, it's expensive. And your flights prices are going to go up. So, are you willing to pay more?
If they don't let me have a gun or a weapon, if I can't even I do bring my eyebrow scissors and those get through. So I could possibly stab someone if I needed to.
Oh, they did more. They did more than box cutter.
Yeah.
I just did a little tweaking to the microphones. So if you guys are listening, hopefully it's better. Stephanie, count for us.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
All right, so let's
1,
see
2, 3,
if
4,
that
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
11, 12.
There you go.
You're old when you can sing that song. And we're glad to have our friends Dash here on the show with us today. Says, please, we have wives and attorneys filing fake cases in the SC to make laws. Not sure what you're talking about there. Joni Rankin says air marshals are basically non-existent. I've seen one before. He had his gun and his thing. And they usually dress up a little bit, like stuff like that. That's kind of how you can tell and stuff. But they're
supposed to blend in. They're still supposed to blend in. But yeah, and there is a shortage of them, and also like you said, a lot of people they're not on every flight.
Are they feds?
Yeah, I would say so because they would fall under TSA, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
It sounds like such a wonderful job. Why wouldn't you want to just fly on airplanes and just hang out? No?
You think it's an awesome job until you get it, right? Let's see.
I think the turbulence and all that. Like, nah, I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and they always—it's not like they're putting you in first class. You know,
exactly.
You're gonna be stuck in the back all the time.
You get with the peasants. You get with the peasants. You never see a terrorist go in first class. They always come from coach.
Yeah, it's a United States.
True.
The United States federal law enforcement agency under the Transportation Security Administration of the DHS. Because of their occupation, they travel often, They train to be a highly proficient marksman, right? Because you don't want to blow out a window in the plane.
Right.
Firearms proficiency, aircraft-specific tactics, and close quarters self-defense mechanisms to protect self-defense measures to protect the flying public. So
it was funny in this video. I noticed as I was watching it, all the men started standing up.
Yeah,
you saw like maybe 1 or 2 women standing up.
Yeah,
but it's like, why do we expect the men to stand up? Like again, us women, we just don't pull our weight here.
Yeah, no kidding, right? So
that's the other thing is, do you think that any of those women could have stopped that dude? It took 2 dudes bigger than him to restrain him. He's on drugs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like,
So it's like, what should I do as a woman to help the situation? Should I do anything?
Egg the man on. Go beat his ass.
Should the women
being a bitch? Go beat his ass.
Should the women try to like flirt with him, to like seduce him out of what he's doing? Like, I don't know.
They're in the mental state to where they can register. It's like, hey, big boy, look, I'm about to go open this plane door. We can get out of my way. And then much less like your boyfriend or husband's like, you slut. No.
One of our friends, Camellia, sent us a message. She says that people are taking this woman seriously purely because she has a good physiognomy. She
Yeah.
looks fit,
Yeah.
healthy, and normal. What do you mean? Yeah.
No, I saw a lot of people retweeting a certain angle where her boobs are very prominent, and some guys like the first woman that was freaking out.
Who was like, "You're not real," and she's
Yeah.
saying this weird stuff and stuff like that.
Thanks to DFW, actually, where I flew out of.
Really?
Yeah.
So when they say they're saying people are taking this woman seriously, what do you mean taking her seriously?
It's hot.
Yeah, I guess
That's no, they're, and it's not necessarily taking her seriously, but people are kind of doing this, the shit posts and say, "Oh, I believe her because of her boobs."
right. Well,
Yeah, so
I mean, a lot of people do that, right?
Yeah.
It's called the halo effect.
Mhm.
If she were slovenly or spoke poorly or had rainbow hair or whatever, everyone would just assume she was off her meds or something.
Yeah.
But we all instinctively know that people who are out of touch with reality wear that in their outward appearance, both in the way they carry their physical bodies, but also in how they present themselves. This woman has none of the subtle physical markers that suggest she is mentally unbalanced or a troublemaker. When someone who has all the outward markers of normality says she saw something unbelievable, we listen. That's true. Then she posted the guy that we posted the clip of, or that we showed the clip of in a moment, a moment ago, and this Twitter account is saying this fellow is so disturbed by a fellow passenger that he tried to open the door of the plane during takeoff. So far, he largely seems to be getting the benefit of the doubt while we await details because he also has good physiognomy. Not as believable a character as the one above, though.
I'm sorry, but who are they talking about as giving them the benefit of the doubt? I mean, I think people by and large recognize that these two are off their meds. The fact, and listen to the woman's verbiage; she's slurring some of her words. Like, come on, you can look good. I get that. I get the point they're trying to make, but they're also not taking into account the behavior in and of itself screams like there is something clearly wrong here.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, I think she's got a good point there. If you see someone who isn't showing any outward signs of insanity or something like that, and they say, if they act like something's weird, you're probably going to be like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
But if you see like a naked homeless man going, "Hey,"
Yeah.
you're going to be like, oh, okay, it doesn't make any, he's obviously nuts.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that, the next thing is a poll on these tweets that says, do you believe her when she says that mother effer isn't real? And you have to remember the fact that we live in a conspiracy
Oh
culture.
God, yeah. Yeah.
We live in a conspiracy culture now. So there is, and there's a credulity, right? So that people, which is your willingness to believe.
Yeah.
And so people now, they're willing to believe anything. I mean, if you're wondering why evil has taken over in the United States, is because we're a nation of believers. When somebody comes to us,
QAnon. Oh my
yes,
God.
exactly, QAnon. We were talking about that before the show. We should get into this right now. The reason people fall for conspiracy theories, the reason why people like believe that Oswald was not the lone killer, is because they want to believe it. Right? It's not that it's believable.
It's got to be
right?
sexy.
It's attractive, right?
Exactly.
And people's lives, no offense, people's lives are boring, John.
Mhm.
They don't have a lot going on in their life, right? And you got to know that a lot of this stuff, the people who are listening at home, listening to the conspiracy podcasts, are bored housewives, and they're home alone, and it's kind of like, remember the movie True Lies?
Mhm.
And do you remember his wife, Jamie Lee Curtis?
Yeah.
And she's the perfect example of what I'm talking about. There are so many of those characters out there, those bored housewives who are getting banged by used car salesmen who say that they're CIA agents because they just need some excitement in their life. And
Yeah.
and rather than believe, which is probably what I think is true, is that nobody is in control. We live in the universe is chaos, and there is no conspiracy of locus of control. Right? Is for me, locus of control means I believe that I control my destiny. If you have an external locus of control, which is what most conspiracy theory mindsets have, then you believe that there are outside factors that are controlling you.
Yeah.
So I have a high internal locus of control because I say to myself, if I want a different outcome in life, I have to take steps in order to have an advantage, in order to have more control over my life. But the conspiracy mindset is, well, it's the cabal of pizza eating pedophiles who killed Jeffrey Epstein and they're the reason why I'm failing because my business is failing because of the desire, to inflate the currency through the Federal Reserve and all that kind of stuff. Not that we shouldn't end the Federal Reserve for purely financial fiscal reasons, right? And other ones. And yes, a lot of them are evil. And yes, evil exists. I'm not saying that it doesn't. or that people don't conspire. They absolutely do. And there have been legitimate conspiracies. But people have a hard time telling the difference between what is real and what is
Yes.
not real,
Yes.
because people, not only are we a nation of believers, just look at how religious we are, but people want to believe. They
Yeah.
want to believe that when they see someone like this woman saying that mother effer isn't real,
Yes.
it's fun to be like, dude, the space monkey's on the plane. You know what I mean?
Can speak for myself too. When I'm on an airplane, I am on edge. I am paranoid.
Mhm.
I mean, like watching movies like Snakes on a Plane and like, you know, all the terrorist movies and stuff. I mean, I am scared that it's going to be me, you know, something's going to happen to me. I think the media has made me afraid. And so I am more prone to probably believe that something's going on an airplane because I'm watching out for it.
The road rage is the worst part of COVID, says European Tin Beater over on Rumble. That's a good comment. Every Karen needs her day, says Joni Rankin. Sorry, I can't help myself. Spent too many years around mental illness in my family. I need the humor. Yes. Barney Style says, I assume everyone with muscle tone is on roids. That's hilarious. Funny stuff. Katie556 says, also, didn't Biden keep some documents classified regarding the JFK assassination that were supposed to be declassified? Yes. Every president has. And the best explanation for that I could give is that they don't want information out about techniques that we still use in order to collect information. Right. So because my problem with like the big, like the overarching globalist conspiracy has always been that you have to assume that these people are like somehow superhumans, right? Or that they're better than we are at pulling off vast conspiracies. And we're talking about the government here. I'm much more a believer in the theory of incompetence, rather than the theory of competent supervillains, you know, who are pulling the strings and everything. But that's not as fun.
No.
Right. And also
not as sexy.
And it's not as sexy. And it also runs up against people's programming. We are programmed to believe. We are programmed to have faith.
But look at QAnon, for example. There are people that still believe this. Primarily in the Trump camp. And when QAnon first hit the scene, it was really mind-blowing to me that the premise behind this is that there is somebody in the deep state that is leaking information. It's like, I don't think you understand how the government works, much less intelligence field works. If somebody was actually doing this, they'd be strung up in a heartbeat. They figure this person, oh my God, they have the means of figuring this stuff out. When you can take a satellite from orbit and see, when you flip a coin on the ground, you can tell which side that coin's on. Don't tell me that these people do not have the means of identifying somebody that is potentially leaking very incriminating and damning information, supposedly. So the whole QAnon thing did more damage, not in the sense of what they were spreading were lies and propaganda, but in the sense of it really painted the right as very conspiratorial. And then you had your Alex Joneses, like, you know, they're turning the frogs gay, Sandy Hook's not real. And, you know, he gets a lot of things right, but he also gets a lot of things wrong.
Well, so did Nostradamus.
It's kind of, I call it the Simpson effect. Everybody's like, well, the Simpsons prophesied. The Simpson has like 20,000 episodes. The percentile of them nailing something is going to be very likely. But the thing is, you're not doing a comparison because you're saying this is what they got right. Well, then how much did they get wrong? A broken clock is right twice a minute.
They had an episode recently where Homer Simpson went down in a submarine and got stuck. And so
foreshadowed.
Well, but the problem with that, Steffi, is that if you do 1 million episodes, eventually one of them is going to have an episode of him in a submarine. It's remember when I was explaining to you the other day about the theories about monkeys at typewriters typing a play of Shakespeare? So if you have an infinite amount of monkeys at an infinite amount of typewriters, eventually one of them is going to type out a play of Shakespeare. It's the same concept with Nostradamus. He made 1 billion predictions. And so if you go to the National Enquirer, you can still read Nostradamus's predictions from 1,500 years ago.
But they won't tell about what he got wrong. So it's kind of like when you focus on just what he got right, it's like, well, yeah, it sounds like you're predicting the future.
Yes, you focus on the hits and you ignore the misses. That is, and here's the thing. So, and I've explained this concept on my show before, and people get mad at me for debunking conspiracies.
It's squishing their identity.
It is because they identify themselves with this, and they've spent years investigating these things and doing this research. But there are mistakes that people like myself, who are not conspiracy mindset type people, make in regards to analyzing threats. So there's type 1 errors and there's type 2 errors. And a type 1 error is the type of error that you would make if you hear a rustling in the grass and you think that there's a tiger. If every time you hear a rustling in the grass, you think that there's a tiger in the grass, well, then that's a type 1 error, right? Now, their evolution, we've evolved to have a conspiracy mindset to make type 1 errors because the people who survived are the ones who were like, you know what?
Yeah.
Most likely it may not be a tiger, but you know what? I'm not going to take a chance.
Exactly.
So I'm going to run away every time I hear a rustling in the grass.
That's me.
That's you, right? So I'm going to be the type 2 error, which is that when I hear a rustling in the grass, I think it's probably the wind, right? But people like myself probably got eaten more because every once in a while, the rustling in the grass is a tiger, right? Every once in a while, I believe a conspiracy. I don't think Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. I think that he probably was murdered, right? So that's me hearing the rustling in the grass and thinking that's a tiger, right? But it might be a type 1 error in that scenario.
Are you type 1 or type 2?
It's a good question. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. I see something like it potentially could be this. Let's wait a second, but I'm certainly not going to say it's not.
Right.
But, I think that also that comes from my background in training.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
a lot
given
of
your experiences.
Yeah, so it's not really a surprise there.
Yeah, I got to transition here real quick to our AP for Liberty shop. See, we just got a sale. Hell yeah, Sam Brandt.
Nice.
Thank you, Sam. Just bought a Killdozer shirt from the AP for Liberty shop. And I do want to remind you that if you are a monthly subscriber to the Wake Up America show, you get an automatic 20% discount. So if you're a monthly subscriber and you donate to the Wake Up America show to help us keep the lights on and the cameras going and all the expensive equipment going, then you get an automatic 20% discount at ap4libertyshop.com, which is a good way for me to say, if you're not a monthly subscriber, you should become one. We've got lots of great perks for our monthly members. Not only do you get the automatic 20% discount at ap4libertyshop.com, you get great merch like what we've got up on the screen right now, but you also get free emojis in the chat that other people don't have access to. So you get emojis in the chat, you get a 20% discount. And on top of that, guess what? We've also got more perks that we give away. For once a month, we do a giveaway of an item in the shop to a random subscriber, and we give one away every month. And sometimes we give away big prizes. Usually we give away like items from the merch shop, which are still really cool. And I know a lot of you really like the items that we have, but a couple months ago, I gave away an actual working AK-47. So there's lots of great reasons to be a monthly subscriber. Imagine doing a $2.99 a month on YouTube subscription to the Wake Up America show and then winning an AK-47. I mean, that would be pretty freaking awesome. Right? So that's a good investment. I would say so. So do us a favor and join the channel today. Become a member of the Freedom Ninja Army or the Cantina Crew. 20% discount at ap4libertyshop.com. Visit the shop right now. Get yourself some pretty awesome gear. And and then we will make us rich. How about that? Or drop a donation in the tip jar if you're feeling like it. How about that? If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We've got the lovely Stephanie Peterson joining us.
Wow, I know. Like, well, thank you, Austin. I appreciate that.
As you can see from this camera angle over here, hold on, let me pull it over. As you can see from this camera angle over here, I'm actually working the buttons over here. So it's like, and I don't normally have 4 cameras on, so it's there. But and then of course we've got the lovely John Burk as well. Good to see you, John. Thanks for coming on today. We appreciate everybody tuning in for us today and for watching the Wake Up America show every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. We're grateful to have you here on the show, and we'd love to have you come back. Normally we are, again, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time, and we're doing a little bit of a later show today so we can accommodate our buddy John Burk, who's in town, Jefferson City. We're glad to have him here. All right, so let's move on to the next topic, and this is probably going to be the one that's going to round out the show. I'm really tired of the war between the DeSantis and the Trump people because there's, first of all, it's so dishonest. Like you were saying earlier, what they're saying about DeSantis and stuff. He's a rhino. He's a sellout. He's backed by the Bushes and all this kind of stuff. 6 weeks ago, he was the best governor in the entire country. And now he's the worst governor in the state of the country and all this kind of stuff. It's like, will it ever end?
No.
It's not going to end. Okay. So in a battle between Trump v. DeSantis, who you got?
Who do I want?
Yeah.
DeSantis. Who do I think is going to win? Trump.
Why?
I think the Colt 45, they have the numbers. But at the same token, every time Trump launches an attack on DeSantis, is alienating more of his own camp. I, like many other people out there, were kind of like on Team Trump until he started attacking DeSantis. And it's like, you just need to stop. We don't have to go to this level. Let's focus. I was talking about yesterday, is like Biden has given you so much ample ammunition to use against him, exploit the holes in his defense. Like you talk about the economy, you talk about inflation, you talk about all these things that he's screwed up, energy independence or the lack thereof. There are so many different things you could be focusing on and hammering on. And basically, Trump has the one benefit that a lot of people don't have, is that you've already got a first term to reference. You can say, look, when I did this, this is what we had. We had a flourishing economy. We had low unemployment, specifically in the black community, especially because it's a hot button topic in a lot of those conversations. Trump could just easily reference this and say, look, when I was in, you miss them tweets, don't you? But instead, and I get it, it's the primary. You do have to defeat your opponent. But I feel like there's just much more on the line right now. We have children being mutilated by, the trans on the left, and you see these wackadoodles. And so I feel like this is one of those times that the right needs to unite more than ever. We've got to get people out to the polls. We've got to get people out to vote. And the way to do that is not to divide people, because right now I'm telling you, it's a growing movement within the Trump and DeSantis camps that if Trump secures the nomination, a lot of DeSantis supporters saying, I'm voting independent. It's like, you're not getting my vote. Because a lot of this I saw coming from the Trump camp, and I'm not talking about all Trump people. I'm just talking about like the MAGA influencers specifically. It was like, well, even if DeSantis wins, I'm not voting. It's Trump or nothing. It's like, so then you're a loyalist. Like you would forsake the Constitution.
They did that in Georgia. Like it was.
Because they're stupid. They're stupid.
Yeah.
They're stupid. I'm sorry. You're an idiot.
No, it was like the election runoff. One of like Trump's biggest supporters, like when they were really hot on the whole stolen election thing. I think it was before Trump was even inaugurated. They had a special election between Raphael Warnock in Georgia and the other guy. And one of Trump's biggest supporters gone on there says, "Don't show up to vote because the ballots are going to be stolen anyway," and stuff like that. So a lot of Trump supporters stayed home. They didn't show up to vote. And it's kind of like, if the election were stolen as they claim it is, what has changed between 2020 and now that's going to give Donald Trump an actual chance to win here in 2024?
Man,
Exactly.
you're hitting a lot of good points there, because they talked about election interference. Were the elections rigged? They're talking about polling. They're talking about voter turnout at these rallies. But when you have over 50 cases that are thrown out by predominantly a lot of the judges that Trump put into office, it leaves people like me with the kind of this centrist position of like, look, I don't know what to believe at this point. Do I think there's election meddling? Yes. Do I think it was rigged? I don't know. I'm seeing evidence on either side. I saw the 2,000 mules. I saw a lot of this stuff. But the one thing I have to fall back on, though, is when Trump sits there and claims like, well, I'm going to drain the swamp. But then you turn around and you surround yourself with the very same people that flip on you, and you empower the FBI, you fund the FBI, you appoint Ray, you appoint all these people. And, you're sitting there pearl clutching when the scorpion that you gave a home to turns around and stings you. And it's like, maybe you're not the best man for the job.
Explain the scorpion and the frog, because
Well,
people don't know.
People, the scorpion and the frog, the whole premise behind the story is that there's this stream, and the scorpion's trying to get across it, and the frog's like, hey, you can get on my back and I'll float you across, but you can't sting me, because if you sting me, we're both going to die. And so the scorpion's like, okay, fine. So he gets on the frog. They make it about halfway across the river, and the scorpion stings the frog. And then as they're getting ready to die, the frog's like, why would you do that? And the scorpion's like, you knew what I was. It's the same story of the guy that picks up the snake.
It's
when Trump
is of nature over nurture.
Yes.
Like
So
evil is always going to be evil.
you can't expect it to be anything else.
Right.
So the thing that I'll give to Trump is that people will say he didn't know what he was getting himself into. It's like, I don't agree with that, because Trump has been around politics his entire life. You can't tell me that you make it to that level of success and money and you don't know politics. He's taken pictures of people. He's been at these fun events. It's fun. He knows how the system works. Oh, yeah. But when you tell me that you're going to drain the swamp, and then all I see you do is endorse the likes of Romney, McConnell, McCarthy, Paul Ryan, all these people, Graham, and then you're just kind of like, you're surrounding yourself with the swamp itself. And I don't like saying swamp. I just like saying corruption.
Mm-hmm.
It's the deep state. It's just corruption is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because we always have to make it something sexy. You have all these influencers like, it's the deep state. We're going to expose the deep state. Well, Trump clearly didn't, because the deep state's still in office. And you have the weaponization of the FBI. So it's kind of like these organizations that you say that you're going to dismantle, you're going to go after. It's like, well, why didn't you? You had the chance and you didn't.
What do we think about RFK?
Oh dear.
No.
I feel bad for the guy. I mean, his poor voice with the neurological problem. He can't help it. I don't know. I just cringe every time I watch it.
Conservatives, for some reason, thinks this guy is sexy. I don't get it, because he posts this photo shirtless, like, oh, bro, he lifts. He's just like,
Dude.
that's great. But he goes around and then he turns around and tweets like, if there's an assault weapons ban, I'd sign it. It's like, well, then you can go screw yourself. No,
Exactly.
that's one issue.
First of all, there are two reasons why a lot of the right are supporting RFK. One, well, there's three. One is he's running against Biden.
Yeah.
Two, he lifts.
Yeah.
And three, he says that the CIA killed his dad and uncle.
Yeah.
And the right is like, he's the prison planet candidate, and like
so libertarians like him.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I can't agree with that.
No.
He talks about, again, we go back to the Second Amendment being to me, I'm not normally a single issue voter, but when it comes to the Second Amendment, I am. Because I feel like the Second Amendment is so important in our culture to keep America from turning into an Australia again, that when he turns around and says, I will sign, well, number one, he's flip-flopped on it. That right there tells me you're inconsistent. I can't trust anything you say, because he talked about, I'm going to leave the guns alone. Then he says, I'll sign the weapons ban. It's like, okay, so then you're no different than any other politician out there. You're saying things on both sides to appease them. Therefore, you have no thinking of independence on your own. You're just a populist at heart. So when he's saying that, and then he calls for transparency on the vaccines, and he's saying the things that people really love to hear, but it's the hard issues that I don't agree with him on. So libertarians liking him. Well, if they do, they're not real libertarians. I'm just going to put it that way. He's not a Second Amendment guy.
Very good.
Trump wasn't a pro-2A guy. And if you tell the Colt 45 that, I had one argument, brother. Like, you want to talk about like how brainwashed these people are. I'm not going to name these idiot influencers, because honestly, it's another reason why people are they're influencers. They don't know what they're talking about. Not that I do any stretch of the imagination, but still. This one influencer, he's based out of Florida, and he was just coming at me sideways. Like, Trump, blah, blah, blah. So what do we got red flag? Well, somebody actually did it to me, but I got him back. It's like, but you're okay with that? Just because you got you're okay? Like, dude, I don't get you people. You are so inconsistent in your thinking. At least stand for something. But if it's Trump, well, then we can forgive certain things because that's our guy. It's like, no, you should hold him accountable. It shouldn't be a left versus right. It should be us versus the government. But we are still in this back and forth between each other. So
you feel bad for RFK?
Yeah, I do.
Talk about his voice.
Yes, I mean, his voice it's like the elephant in the room, right? It's the thing everybody notices at first. But just because I feel bad for the guy doesn't mean I support him.
I mean,
I don't think I could vote for a Democrat.
No.
I vote for Republicans more easily than I do Democrats.
The thing with RFK Jr. is that the one issue that he's good on, which is COVID tyranny, isn't really an issue as much anymore. I mean,
it's kind of over.
Right. Not that we shouldn't remind people of it, right? That
if it happened again while he's in office, sure.
Right. And I think that I think that is another issue for me. That's a deal breaker. If you were a big lockdown person or anything like that, that's something that I think is beyond the pale. A lot of Republicans were lockdown candidates.
Don't you love this new dichotomy between Trump and DeSantis, and they're using code but whoever Trump's handlers are, you need to tell him to shut up about COVID. He is the father of warp speed. He gave Fauci a presidential medal. And then Trump wants to go after DeSantis and say, oh, Cuomo did better in New York. Cuomo was a grandma killer. The disgusting, but Trump's inconsistent. He is inconsistent. He'll sit there and say that Fox News is fake news, but then when Fox puts a poll out that supports him, he's going to start quoting as if it's gospel. And then anyone that has a slight disagreement, he goes after Kelly, what's her face, or Kaylee, and she's milquetoast. Like, bro, you keep attacking these people that might not see things according to you, and now they're not on yours. Trump is a one-way loyalist guy, because I will never forget what he's done to the January 6th prisoners. He abandoned them. And in leadership, that ain't it. That ain't it. I'm sorry. And I don't blame Trump for January 6th. He didn't call for violence. He didn't. People acted stupid. There were bad faith actors in that crowd. But still, Trump bears some responsibility to be there for those families, to give them, to be honest, let me just go on this rant real quick. When you've got these DA Bragg indictments that are not going to stick because it's founded in BS, they're just trying to prevent him from running over however many was. And then he turns around within 24 hours, raises $16 million, and then goes down to Florida, does the same thing. And we haven't even seen D.C. and Georgia yet, because they're apparently going after him too. People in this economy that we're living in are living, I think it's over 81% people are living paycheck to paycheck. And you're sitting there simping, trying to get more money. We got to fight this, help pay for my legal fees. You're a billionaire, brother. You can afford this. Stop grifting from the people. Be a freaking leader and deal with the mess that you have helped create. But this idea that, we forgive Trump for all these things. There are people. I had one interview on my show with a January 6th defendant, and she made me very aware of a lot of these January 6th people that were prosecuted unjustly, that didn't even go into the Capitol building. Basically, they're saying, they're under house arrest. They have to wear an ankle bracelet. They can't even work a job How are they supposed to afford legal defense against the government? They can't. Where's Trump? Well, he's out there grifting millions on these indictments that are not going to stick from DA Bragg. The ones in Florida, I think they might have him on some stuff there, but even still, it's like you left people behind. You left them to their own devices, in a sense, if you will. And it's like, bro, you bear some responsibility in this. You really do. I'm not saying you're at fault for it, but if you're going to sit there and tell the people, we got to go down there, we're going to fight, we're going to protest, and they do, and I'm not talking about that you should support the ones that literally went in there and broke shit. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like those that were unjustly prosecuted. You should be looking into this.
Yeah.
But you know what we'll do? Here's what we'll do, Austin. We'll drop an iTunes song 2 years later. We might donate a little bit of that money.
Yeah. An iTunes song. What is
yeah,
that?
Oh, yeah, some stupid song. Then Carrie Lake and those bunch of nerds did the same thing. I had a lot of hope for her, but she turned to another Trump shill. And now she's like, I think they have an affair, quite honestly. She's been at Mar-a-Lago a lot. And that idiot, she's just, oh my gosh, she's kissing Trump's ass.
I'm sure she is.
Everybody's wanting that VP slot.
Yeah.
They give me get on it. So it's funny to see Vivek, and then you see Nikki Haley, you see her. It's like, who can have their nose the furthest up Trump's ass?
We got to pause. We got a big thank you for Andy Opperman. He's sent us $50.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, Andy.
Said, lunch on me. Thanks to John for being a sponsor of the show. So
awesome.
That's right.
we're going to take John out to lunch after
Thank
this
you.
for sure. So we're
McDonald's.
looking forward to it. McDonald's. I like McDonald's.
With an ice cold Bud Light.
And a Grimace shake. Right, so we've got about 10 minutes left on the show. I'd like to breach one more topic. The Native Americans, some of them apparently want back the Lakota. They want back Mount Rushmore. Ben and Jerry's did a post on the 4th of July. The stolen land, stolen land, stolen land.
You got your asses whipped. Deal with it.
Yeek.
I don't care about it. I'm sorry. Okay, what more do you want? You have casinos now. You have access to college that most white Americans do not. You get these benefits that most, I would say, what's the percentage? It's like, what, 3% of the population are Native American? Yet you are outdoing roughly like 96% because not including other people, actually less than that. But still, it's like you already have a leg up. What more do you want? And people talk about like, well, we love glamorizing Native Americans, but you don't see these movies talking about the Native Americans were cannibals. Some were slave owners, actual black slave owners, very barbaric. And as far as how like one tribe would conquer another, the tribe's prisoners become slaves. This was common practice back then. So I'm sorry that you spent your time worshiping the sun and doing whatever, yet Europeans were over there advancing technology to be better. And so when you see these people talking about like, we deserve, reparations, Africa, blah, 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 it's like, well, then I don't see like Africa being a very big superpower right now. And I don't see a lot of these countries, like specifically the Native American tribes that occupied America. It's not like you were doing a lot of good with it.
Yeah.
With the same token.
Go ahead.
It's like, if they were there first, do they get first dibs? That's the question I always come back to. Who do you
No.
It's not the
do
way
you
it
give it
works.
to the most successful
where
person
did
or
they
the
come
person
from?
who came?
So
On that land, they migrated. So
I'm kind of I agree with Ayn Rand on this one. She had a pretty controversial viewpoint, but she says it's the person who will make the best use of it, who is the most civilized. So
Civilized.
Right. So that's why, for example, she's Jewish, right? But she was not in favor of a two-state solution between Palestine and Israel because she said that the Palestinians were savages and that Israel was a civilized
Oh my
nation.
gosh, she would have created a lot of issues over there. Wow.
There's a lot.
There are issues.
but is she wrong though?
No, she's not wrong.
Exactly.
And there's a reason why the left hates her, like,
right.
more than almost anyone, because she more than anyone defended civilization and capitalism, which builds civilizations. But here in the United States, first of all, there were a lot of open plains that were not settled by the Indians here in the United States, right? And they were nomadic tribes. When you say they were here first, where were they here first?
Were they at Mount Rushmore?
First, they were,
because they're fighting for it.
that is part of the historic ancestral lands of the Lakota tribe, right?
Okay.
Right. There were the Lakota and the Dakota, right? And we call them the Sioux. But the thing is that they moved all over the place, right? They were nomads.
Right.
So it's not as it's kind of, I don't know if you play the game Civilization, but I mean, like, barbarians get pushed aside for civilizations because people who are settling and who want to gather, they build communities and they homestead.
You know what's funny? You don't see people over in Italy, specifically Rome, saying, we need to give land back to the barbarians. The barbarians are like, we need to give land. Like, no, because you know what? Because they're not a bunch of bitches. They're just not.
No.
And look, I'm not saying the Native Americans didn't get a back shake. Andrew Jackson was a horrible human being and how we treated the Native Americans. I will give you 100%. But look, we have to stop trying to sit there and, again, apply politically correct standards to historical events and figures. It does not work. And people just want, honestly, I feel like a lot of people just want to bitch about this stuff. And quite, it's the devil, like reparations, give land back. It's like, and do what with it? You're so great at spending money as it is. You're so great at what the land you have now. It's like, come on, stop. Just stop with this. How about
It's
you
like
just contribute to society and just move about it? Because land's not given back and we're not giving reparations. It's not going to happen. These are just talking points that politicians try and use because it's popular and it's trending on Twitter. And they want to get more votes. It's like, let's talk about, the cool thing that's going to get us some support. It's not going to happen.
It's an issue to attach to.
Exactly. And then if you're going to give the land back, to what degree of Native Americans are you going to give it back to? Because, I'm descended from Seminoles. So it's like, do I get access to some of this land? And nor would I want to. I don't deserve that. You're giving me what?
There's a good book that I highly recommend called Guns, Germs, and Steel, which is a really good discussion about the conquest of America. But one of the things that has been revealed in the last 30 years in archaeology is that there was a giant plague that killed off the majority of the Native Americans who were here between the time that Columbus sailed in 1492 off the coast of the United States and when the pilgrims came and settled and the colonies began, there was a massive plague here in America because Columbus's books described that the smoke in the air was thick. It was like there were thousands of chimneys because the population of the Native Americans was massive. And it was interesting because they say that the Native Americans, when they were at their most populous, actually cleared a lot of the plains out for the pilgrims when they landed so that they actually had a much easier time settling because honestly the pilgrims had a really difficult time and the pioneers and the settlers had a really difficult time settling America.
Why does nobody blame the Indians on this? Why didn't you just wipe the pilgrims out when you had the chance? But instead you didn't. You wanted to live, which I commend them for. It's like we tried living in peace, but it's like, look, these are mistakes that your culture made. I don't know what you want me to tell you about this. So it's like, but nobody talks about that.
Andy Opperman, apparently the second most brilliant guy in Jefferson City. Obviously I'm the first, Andy, just kidding. He says, love Guns, Germs, and Steel. You've read the book. Damn, dude. No wonder you like the Wake Up America show. We always get the nerds and the brainiacs watching this, which is, I
don't know why the hell you had me on.
No, no, we bring you on because we like the views. The Wake Up America show. The Wake Up America show is pales in comparison to the All American Savage show, which of course has a much bigger user base. So if you're watching my show and you like it, I think you'll like John Burk as well. His show's at noon, although he'll not be on today. There'll be no show today because he's here in Jefferson City traveling.
You can stream from the airplane.
Yeah.
If there's any crazy
people. I was about to say,
If there's any airplane freakouts, John will get that on camera. We've only got a couple more minutes left. John, do you want to share anything else with our listeners before we end the show today?
Yeah, like Austin did. You can find me at the All American Savage show. We do the live show on Rumble and Kick and YouTube. On Kick, it's John Burk. Rumble, it's John Burk. And Kick, it's YouTube, it's John Burk Official. You can tweet me out at JohnBurk39 and then follow me on Instagram at AA Savage Show. I keep getting banned so much. So worst case scenario, you can find me on the podcast, downloadable wherever podcasts are downloaded. Big thank you for having me on the show. Like I interjected myself into the space because hey, Austin, I'm in town. Let's meet. Let's go. Let's do this podcast together because, whenever you come to Dallas, open invitation.
Hell yeah.
Open invitation to come to the studio.
Texas.
Steffi wants to go to Texas pretty bad. Yeah,
we'll take you out
sure.
shooting. Come on.
Steffi, anything else that you would like to share with our listeners before we let you go?
Just so thankful I got to hang out with you guys because you're way cooler than me. So I'm just a normal person. That's what I say.
Community says John is just there for the eye candy. LMAO.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Ladies.
Yeah, he is.
I got a wonderful woman at home.
It's to tango, and now we know the origin of the tango thanks to this.
We have the Instagram, Tango Mi Corazon. You can go follow that. That's our tango journey. Sheila's done amazing, bro. She is. I'm lucky I found her.
You got a very beautiful.
I do.
And
she's a great person.
We love seeing what you post there on social media when you're not banned.
When I'm not banned, yeah.
Yes. Make sure that you click like and subscribe on the Wake Up America show before you go. If you've never watched the show today and if it's your first time and you enjoyed the content, make sure that you click that subscribe button. And just so you know, the Wake Up America show is Mondays through Fridays from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. I will be out at the end of the month because I'm going to be filming the Battle of Athens documentary. So make sure you check that out as well. Trying to raise $10,000 by the end of the month. We're about a quarter of the way to our goal so far, so a lot of money needs to be raised. Check out givesendgo.com/bleedamerican to find out more about that documentary. givesendgo.com/bleedamerican to find out more about my documentary to tell the story of election fraud, a political violence, and a veteran's victory in 1946. World War II veterans returning home from fighting for democracy overseas found that they had lost it there at home. My wife and I will be traveling to Athens, Tennessee to interview locals to talk about the event on the 77th anniversary. They're going to be having a festival down there. And we're going to interview people whose families were involved and related in this political struggle. And we're going to try and tell this story of how election interference historically has affected the United States on our small towns. And it's a great story, and it definitely deserves your support. Thank you to all who have already given, like Andy Opperman, like Pam Ames, I saw just donated about an hour ago. Thank you, Pam, to all of our friends for supporting us. And of course, check out our friend John Burke's website, shellshockcbd.com, and get a 10% discount with that code AP for Liberty. Camellia says his woman is gorgeous too. Yes, she is.
She is beautiful.
Yeah,
Yes.
she absolutely is. Thank you so much for watching the Wake Up America show today. We got to play the outro music. It's time to say goodbye. Stephanie, say goodbye.
Be free.
Be free.
Bye.
Thanks so much, John. Thanks so much for coming on today. We appreciate you.
Thank you for
Have a
having me.
great day. Yeah, we'll see you later. All right. Time to go. Thanks, everybody. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I'm listening to the music in my head.